Hello and welcome back, little fish, to a bit of a developer stream. Today we have some huge news in regards to the progress of the Mixers project for both the video game and the tabletop. The first biggest piece of news and the real massive and amazing announcement is the move for Terrestria At War to become fully free. Now this means that all assets will be released free from this point onwards. We just realized that honestly, as long as we can reach our goals, as long as the bars above my glorious head can be filled, all of these things can be attainable and achievable. So that's kind of where we're sitting. So the reason for this is mostly due to the fact that, honestly, I feel like digital tabletops are going to be the way of the future. So the digital tabletop for Terrestria At War is already a factor and is already in the works. We'll probably, for the first iteration, just be using Tabletop Simulator. So the assets will be released free on Tabletop Simulator as well. They will also be released free on the website as well. They're not currently available on BattleDamageStudios.com store page yet. I'm going to have a meeting tonight with one of our lead programmers on basically updating the website with the new updates to the store page. This also includes Legends of Terrestria minis, which means Rhea, Aya, Nezra, and Celeste will also be moving into the free categories. All pre-existing heroes like a Toli Thist, Ennius Ender, etc., will be moving into the free section. The Nafir army that is complete so far and the Astrian army that's complete so far will be moving into the free section as well. We decided against charging for them mostly due to the fact that because we're community funded to such a degree that we are so reliant on donations for literally existing, and we require donations for existing, that honestly the business model is actually completely changed because, well, there's most of the people that are super interested in the tabletop were already giving us money anyways, and so it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we might as well transition to making them free. That includes the rule set, and this is basically means that as production goes forward, all future minis for the foreseeable future for the Astrian and the Neferic armies will be free as well. Now we might, readdress that later, but honestly, as it stands now, I'm pretty content with it. So long as our quotas are filled, that's all that really matters to me, honestly, so we can keep development going. Because the Terrestria At War project is a massive project. It is not a little one by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's one of the largest tabletop projects probably out there. Considering how many nations are slated to be done, it's insane. Because every nation on Terrestria is slated to have their own army at some point. Including minor powers, mercenary armies, and etc. It is a colossal project. Not just like 4 or 3 alien races or like 6. It's like there's like over 20. There's like, the first two will be the Astrians and the Nafir, followed by the third faction, which is already being worked on, called the Gurdakar. The Gurdakar are a northern race, and they are not necessarily humanoids. We're going to be focusing on other non-humanoid races as well to help add some variety to Terrestria. Now, bear in mind that they adhere to the world rules, so we'll see what that is doing. Welcome, Stream Crazy Templar, and welcome, Commissar Czar, as well. So yes, so basically a lot of stuff is moving to the free stuff, which means that development is going to continue because it's going as fast as she can, Captain, already, and as long as we meet our quotas, development will continue. But yes, the Terrestria At War stuff is continuing its glorious advance. New Terrestria At War project stuff will be coming out soon, by the way. The Spear Beak is still in the works, but there is a preview of the first miniature for that. One of our first monsters. Yes. For once, Emo4286 says, base super chatter sim, subsidizing the tabletops for the rest of us. They literally are. As the goal with this is very much a passion project and less about corporate greed and anything of that nature, I want the passion to remain a part of the things. Previews of some fancy minis coming. But yes, here's some of the Terrestria At War minis that we currently have. Here's a preview of some of the, like, earlier Spear Beak stuff. That's before he got, like, the armor and stuff. There he is with it, and a sort of example diorama of the Nafir army standing around. The fat, chubby little signaler ready to rock and roll. And this smug little lad over there is like, yeah, I got a big stick. Oh, goodness gracious. These guys are turning out quite well. Quite well indeed. So yeah, that is an example of the first test print of one of the larger creatures. And as you can see, it turned out spectacularly. Very impressive. And the fact that we're moving to the free-to-play means that... or free-to-play. That's technically not the correct term, but all right. My brain relapsed. There's no microtransactions here because it's all free. There's no grind because, well, how do you grind a tabletop game? So yes, we will be moving Terrestria At War to free, so long as we get more YouTube members, patrons, subscribe stars. As long as we continue to fill those bars up there, development will continue indefinitely, basically forever. There is no plan to stop production, no plan to scale back. The move to make it free is simply due to the fact that when asking myself and asking the team in the previous dev meeting, and before that I was thinking about this, like, we realized, like, okay, we've reached production capacity, meaning that we are going as fast as we can now that we've gotten as much funding as we can at the current rate. There is no way to accelerate development any faster than we are going now. So the best thing now is just to put it into a treasury in case the bad months hit, so that we have, you know, something to keep things going. So, I mean, that's what we do. Rapier Kamigawa donates a generous $2 and kicks it off with a praising fish. Very, very generous. Thank you very much, Rapier Kamigawa. Looking Kibs, when can we see the heroes for the Navir? The heroes for the Navir are in production still. One of them, I think Artok, is as close as he's going to be. His concept art is done, as well as crap. Not Artok, Martok. I get those two. There are two characters called that. I can't remember the Fire Shaman's name. He is done for the Battle of Broken Storms. The Legend of Terrestria designs for Yugiri is also done. So yeah, we got lots of stuff coming there. You'll also probably notice that the thumbnail had an Aya and the bathing. The bathing art is almost done. As a bonus today, if we reach a $100 donation within the development stream, I will early release a preview picture of a work in progress for the Astrian bathing scene. Bear in mind that it's actually a bathing song. It's tethered to their lore, if that makes sense, about how they sing, because Astrians generally are a people that sing, and they normally sing when bathing or, you know, before meals and stuff like that. And more so the aristocrats than anything else, and it's mostly to reflect on their life and what's going on. And the song is actually sung in Astrian by the beloved little pancake herself. Can you believe that, chat? My God. Celeste's song is also entering the scouting works now, and we're preparing for more things. Vulcan donates a generous £10. Thank you very much. Filling you up, Kibs. Your donations are keeping the studio alive, and basically, you chat are funding the new media. The plan with the Mixers project is to create a new media, not bound by any rather, like, what's the word? Not bound by corporate greed, like every other thing, and bound instead by passion. Obviously, profits are a thing that we need to get so we can actually, you know, feed people and make progress. But the idea is to not do any sort of overly greedy things, because the industry, in my opinion, because I'm much more of an idealist, has become filled with just greed and just awful things. And I think now is the time for us to start healing that divide, and that's why Terrestria At War is becoming free. I think that not only can we fund the project on donations, I think that we can also succeed in a way that no other company has before, and no other studio has before, through the fact that through the power of a good community and a well gate-kept community, we can build a new media and build a new empire. My new empire, if you will. Chant. You like my little memes I throw in there? Dig Cliff asks, I was interested in making my own tabletop game concept design. It was easy, but am curious, Kib, what the most difficult part of developing Terrestria At War? Money. Money is the most difficult part of anything, in my opinion. Money. Like, that is the bottleneck. That is the thing that holds us back all the time. Like, anything you can dream up. From my experience as an indie developer for Terrestria, anything in the Mixers project is achievable with well, there's technically more, but I'll get into it. With the first primary thing, money. money to hire professionals to give time to develop the thing you need to make. Anything is achievable when it comes to coding and programming. The fact that anyone says otherwise is a liar. Like, there is no such thing as impossible. If you can rally the financial support for it, it can be built. It can be made, because human ingenuity is literally capable of conquering mountains. Literally nothing can stop us if we unify ourselves into a singular goal and purpose. The Mixers project is proof of the impossible being achieved. Slowly, but still achieved nonetheless. Semper Tantrum donates $3. Say, eat up, Kibler. Hashtag sock fun. Thank you for your generous donation. That puts us at $5 and 10 pounds towards the release of the bath art. And you see, gosh darn it, you don't pop up there, you little muppet. I hate Windows 11. It resets all those things. Makes me angry, it does. How do I close that? Is it possible to... Here, hold on. I'm going to try to fix this real quick. Select file, options, mail. Okay, so Outlook. Come here, you little shit. Like how... I hate Windows 11. I genuinely hate it. I don't care. People donate, they know my name. Just don't say it on stream. It's not hard to figure out who Kib is anyways. Because I do think that knowing my name is important if you're going to financially support the Kib. Kib's going for world domination, basically, and welcome to Stream House XD. Money, money, money with little crabs. Yeah, basically. Basically, anything is achievable through monetary means. The second thing is obviously professionals. The third thing is basically time. People said that a lot of the things we did programmatically with the game would be either impossible or simply, well, a lot of them said impossible. We did it anyways. And that's something that you hear a lot, by the way. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Like, there's no such thing. No such thing as impossible. Programming literally can achieve anything. The key trick there is time. Hence why the combat prototype has taken this long to make. It's the creation of the renderer, the creation of the raycasting system. Now we're on to deployment, which means that the deployment of characters and the animation system. Things of that nature. Do I get access to the Chamber of Squeakrits? Yes, you do. Send me a DM of your receipt. In fact, I think you've donated before, Vulcan. You should have had access already. Rapier Kamigawa donates $20. Say, still think charging. Gosh darn it. And thank you for your generous donation. Hold on. Kibbos will attempt to rectify that, not for my sake, but for chat's sake. Turn message alert pop-ups. Okay, let's just deal with this now for chat's sake. More than mine. I don't actually know how to turn that off, to be honest with you, chat. I have no idea. Kibs is kind of stupid. Titus Meccan donates $50, say, for the Kib Imperium. True passion. That puts us at 73 plus 2 plus 2 or 2 5 75. $75 and 10 pounds. Basically like less than $20 by a lot. Less than $15 actually. Kibs is bad at math. Don't worry about it. And we'll release the art for free. Thank you for your generous donations. We will do this donation stuff because it helps. I'm so excited for the tabletop to be released. I wish I had a 3D printer so I could paint the models. Well, don't worry about it, Just Norio. We will be releasing it actually also on Tabletop Simulator under an official work page, so that, or a mod page, so that if you don't have the ability to download the minis or meet up with each other, you can actually just download them via the Tabletop Sim stuff and play with them there. The idea is that increased accessibility and basically building a fandom by the fans for the fans for the first time in the history of anything. And so that's the idea. And that's why if you know anything about our studio, you'll know that everyone in the studio was recruited from the actual community itself. The entire Bickering Bunch cast was recruited from the community itself. Literally everything was recruited and built by this community that we have built. So we are truly a unique entity in the fact that we have become something beyond control, meaning that we're not bound by any others. We're not bound by publishers. We're not bound by outside influences or sources. We are only bound by ourselves. And that is truly incredible. The fact that we are boundless. I said bound so much that I kind of want to throw myself out a window. Except I live on the bottom floor, so I'd sort of just plap against the ground very softly. So says the savior of the games industry. You're damn right, boy. I was paid to call myself the savior of the games industry, and so be it. I'm going to save the whole gosh darn thing, even though it doesn't need saving, but I'm going to save it anyways. Whether it wants to be or not. I just want to paint the models too. Well, that's okay. Just know that there are different members in our audience. Just like I said, by the community, for the community. Our community has different members in the audience that are actually willing to print minis and send them to you guys. So you can actually look around the community, or you could try looking for 3D printer companies that'll handle that for you and print it out for you. Bear in mind that some of them can be very scammy. And also, whenever making a deal with anyone, make sure that it's an equitable deal for all parties. You don't want to be getting yourself screwed over. Raper Kamigawa donates $15. Say this should finish it. Thank you for your generous donation. That does finish it very much. I hate that so much. You have no idea. Let me open it up. Ah, I got you. I got you, you little piece of shit program. Now you're mine. I caught you, you little fucking... It tried to hide on me this time. Show notification banner? No, don't. Don't show notifications at all. Kill yourself, program. Like, don't do that. That's rude. Good. I've slapped the email program. Like that. Taught it a goddamn lesson I did. So yeah, built by the community, for the community, and all of that good stuff. Now, as the tabletop rules are moving further and further, we will be entering public closed testing soon. Well, public closed testing. Basically, we're going to initialize testing with the closed testers, but honestly, I do want to open it up to public testing sooner than later because everything is free. So I want you guys, if you guys are interested, to participate in the testing and, well, help build the game together. After all, we built it together to begin with your finances. It's only fair that you are building it with literally participating, helping shape the rules and stuff. In the same way, you guys will be helping with the video game once the video game enters closed testing as well. So the benefit of the fact that the project is funded this way means that we have no actual deadlines so long as our quotas are met. Now, granted, we do want progress. Most of all, me more than anyone else. I want to, get further and further down the roads because I want to see things more realized. But this has one strategic advantage. We have the ability to take our time, to polish things, to make things very fun, to make it good, to make it feel good. We don't have to rush things. This is something that has been a glaring flaw in the industry for a long time. Deadlines and having to get things done at certain times has led to disaster after disaster after disaster. Now, deadlines should exist. I still believe in them. But having the ability to be more flexible is important because I do not want any of these systems to be confirmed or solidified into a game and forcibly shipped until it's not up to standard. Battle Damage Studios prides itself on a high quality level of good content and very well polished art and resources. We push people inside the studio to be their very best, and that is the entire function of Battle Damage Studios at a level of which hasn't been seen in a very long time. So it's very important that we maintain that attitude to constantly improve. Like I joke with the studio, pretend we have competition. We don't, but pretend we do. And why do we pretend we have competition? Because competition breeds innovation. You need to be constantly on the lookout for how to improve things, how to make things better, striving to be the best you can be, striving to make the best you can make, because you don't want to ship something you're not proud of. It's all about making sure everything is perfect, because you guys deserve nothing less than perfection. So we will do the absolute best we can to deliver such perfection. My long hair is fluttering in the fucking wind because of this fan. Flutters into my eyes. Just remember, Kibs, I own more stock of you than you do, says Shadowfox for €5. Thank you for your generous donation. But I think I own you, Shadowfox. He's like, looks in the mirror, says property of Kibs. It's like, damn. Once you join our community, you don't get to leave our community. You become enslaved to it forever. How do you feel about that? Sad? As you should. Todd donates $10 more. Say, hello, Kibbles. More mun-muns for you, glorious bastards. Thank you for your generous donation. The team is very appreciative. So yes, I'm hoping tonight, well, I'll keep you guys informed. I am slated to have a meeting with Tyler tonight, who is our co-founder, and we're going to be moving the tabletop stuff to free because, like I said during the developer meeting, like after you guys did those last 2 weeks, it gave us all such hope and such confidence. And you guys, that honestly, I definitely believe that crowdsourcing is a new option. So, yeah, continued development and moving it to free to make it increasingly more accessible, because I consider myself a John Hammond style of developer or maker of things, of pretty things. I just want people to play with my stuff. That sounds really bad out of context, but you know what I mean. Just play with it a little, you know? Just give it a little jiggle. Like, oh God, Kim. Garbwire donates 50 Donkey Kong's egg. That's all. Very nice, Kib. But when do we get to the fishing game? Come dating sim part. I don't know about the dating sim part, but yes, the fishing minigame will be in there. Also, welcome Rumble Chat, Wyatt, Garbwire over there. And appreciate. Twitch chat, I know you're silent. Twitter chat, I know you're muzzled. Mythical Ron donates, Mythical Fool donates 10 Rons, Romanian Buckaroodles. Thank you for your generous donation. Your support is truly noted in this great endeavor. Spared no expense. Spare no expense. You damn right I spared no fucking expense. Chad, pretty much all the muns you give either goes into the stockpile treasury. The stockpile treasury is basically building up for the winter, because winter's going to be rough months, you know, as it is always. And well, yeah, it just goes into the game's development fund. Yeah, really, that's kind of it. That's kind of it. Like, besides my bare minimum quality of life living standard things, there's not much more. Like, you guys overpay that, thank God, otherwise we'd be in trouble. And I couldn't afford to pay team and keep the little art boys fed. That'd be a shame, wouldn't it? Oh God, starving artists? Haven't seen that before. Hey Kibs, I switching to Rumble as much as possible. I will support you over there. I have a different username there. Oh. I don't know which one of you is that. I don't know which. Regardless, whether you support us on YouTube or Rumble, if you can, no, I feel like that's asking too much. But if you want to support our algorithm things, feel free to leave the YouTube stuff open and leave a like and leave it running at all times. It boosts us in the algorithm. You're gonna make dinos too now. What do you think of that? Pretty good? Yeah? No? We tried. Give it a little slap, lol. Chat, what the fuck? My goodness, chat, you're scaring me. So, as always, chat, because you always exceed our goals, more bonus materials will be made. So, if we continue to fill this bar for 3 more weeks in a row, I'll use a voice changer for a day, for whatever cringe your little hearts desire. The other thing is, I will also be increasing bonus free content. So we make parodies. Here's our first parody. Or, well, this is our second parody, actually. If you haven't seen the actual official post yet, the Apocalypse parody is now ready for the Fallout series. The Apocalypse parody is just a free mini. It's also a diorama, mind you, and it will be released for free. It's got a chatfish and an aerith ready to make their stand against zombified mutant fish and the apocalypse. So yes, like I told you, chat, you continue to fund us, you continue to make these goals and exceed these goals. I will do my best to make sure all of the money is invested back into the community. More things. And as promised, when we do well, so does chat. This fucking thing is amazing, by the way. I can't get over it. Like, Baffios, you damn did fine with this one. So fucking cool. So... yeah, that tune for a price, Matt. We'll do anything for a tune. Oh, scries. We look good, fishies. You damn right, chat. You look damn well, swell and fine. So yes, the parody minis are to help support the game's development and progress of that nature. Yes, hold on, I gotta green light something. Sometimes I get developer questions from the devs, And I need to, as a director, I need to make sure I greenlight them so that they're not waiting to proceed with something. Greenlight or red light it, or be like, we need to talk about it. But I had to greenlight something. A certain little Robert should be happy and wiggly now. Catfish will sacrifice Aerith to the zombies and run away. Wow. He just takes that big hand and just pushes it over. It's like, so much for the heroic stand, huh? So much. But yes, this is a first diorama as part of the promotional thing. There will be more promotional dioramas if we succeed our goals. I will ensure that we fund more of these. So keep them up, chat. Keep up that. And more bonus material will be made. More bonus content. More things. More stuff. You invest in me and I invest in you. That's our relationship, chat. So, yee. What's the Fallout series? I hadn't heard about it. Ah, you might be new. Well, you're not new, Diggy. You've been here for fucking ever. You just must have missed every stream we had talked about it in. And so I will endeavor to show you what the Fallout series is really quickly. So chat is, like I told you earlier, basically chat is exceeding our goals. And by exceeding our goals, I will be improving our channel. I will be improving everything I can at all times. We'll be constantly marching forward. One of these such improvements has resulted in the creation of something quite incredible. Bear in mind, this is work in progress stuff, so it's not quite done yet, but it is getting there. Okay, there we go. So this is an example of the Fallout series. So chat, as you continually fund things, not only will the Battle Damage Studio stuff improve, but the channel will also thrive, so long as we exceed our goals, because excess funding can go to supporting the actual channel and helping with channel art. It pays for the thumbnails, it pays for the art. The art is always released for free in the channel assets section for chat to play with. And yes, I will be releasing this overlay as well for you to play with as well. So other content creators can use it if they so choose as well. Because you know what? Here at Battle Damage Studios, we give back. Little tear. As I've released my previous overlay as well for free. I know that, generally speaking, try to change it up a little bit, you know, like, it's like, you know, the kid at homework, like, try to make it, you know, your own, obviously. But I figured that it's a nice template for other people to use, and, you know, I'm not the kind of guy to pull the ladder up after myself, but I'm also not the guy to let people drag me under the water either, so I throw things down from my perch up here where I made it. It's on you to climb up, though. It's on you to climb. Will the Fallout 76 be a part of the series? Yes. The Fallout series is a complete franchise playthrough, to boot, with custom thumbnails for every game in the franchise, as well as a custom overlay for it that will be used for extended Fallout content as well. And 76 is included. There will be a Apocalypse 2 diorama made if we get through the Fallout series and traction is still going well. More parody dioramas will be made. Parody minis is what they are. And as always, they will always be free. As always. Honestly, any channel assets will always be released free because, well, I'd see no reason why not to. If you want to use the art, I know some people love the thumbnails and they use the thumbnails as their wallpapers, which, by the way, the artists actually, that really does make their day when they hear that, or when they see people actually using the wallpapers, because it's like, you know, they work so hard on the art. Will Fallout 76 be a part of the series? Yes, I think I answered that. What about drag down into the bucket? Oh no. Blake is just happy. Of course Blake is happy. Yes. The 76 series will also be used with this. Bear in mind that this overlay is the most advanced overlay we have ever made. This is part of the Bickering Bunch 3.0, which we've talked about, which is going to be slowly rolling out throughout the entirety of this year. 3.0, you know, the avatars, the basically the over upgrades on everything, the emphasis on thumbnails on everything, or more custom assets, basically upping the quality across the board. More stuff. 800 by 600. Yes. Oh yeah, so this panel here is, it's expandable and collapsible. As the old Fallout games were made in an old aspect ratio, the art team thought that it would be a good idea to make sure that the game fit into the window and also didn't have random black spaces because it just doesn't look very good. And so Sala came up with this idea, and so Sala's like, okay, you know, I'll try to decorate it a bit more. And so that's where this side panel came in. This side panel can be removed and slides off and on. This will be applied to all future overlays as well, for older games that run in old aspect ratios to make it look nice. Shadowfox joins 5 generous euros to say, not going to lie, Kibs, I'm not mean enough to pay you to play Fallout 76. Oh, that's okay. Chat didn't even, I think, pay for it. I just think I'm going to do it for them. And then I'm going to demand they pay me in reparations. Chat, you go monster. You're There are widescreen mods? There are. But generally, I kind of... Okay, so let's talk a little bit about channel stuff. So if you know me, I kind of prefer to play them on their native things to encapsulate the... What's the word? The natural experience, maybe? No. To make it more authentic, yes. So whenever we stream GameCube stuff or PlayStation stuff or old console things, I actually use an Elgato... my Elgato capture card to capture the actual older games and how they were. And the reason for that is because I want to see how the game plays and looked visually back then as best I can. Granted, the monitor is the only thing that's going to be inaccurate there because, as you know, old TVs give it a very different view than monitors, modern super high-res ones do. If I had my way, I'd probably buy one of those old TVs, but I don't have that kind of free spending money. Just to give it the absolute authentic experience, because I love the idea of the authentic experience of an old game. So generally, I'm not going to use widescreen mods too much because I kind of want to. I don't want to look at a game with rose-tinted glasses. I want to be like, okay, like this is cool, charming, or like this hasn't aged well, things like that, because it gives it a more honest view set. Obviously, there are mods that fix it, but generally, I like to experience it as it was intended to be played. What did we ever do to you, Kibs, to deserve you streaming Fallout 76? Plake has been begging for years for it, and I'm going to force Arch to play it, too. You're like, you're a monster, kid. It's like, yeah, pretty much. Would hate to have to buy that game. I already did. That was a long time ago. To be fair, I think Kibble still owns 76. Yes, I do. I have an old TV in the basement, lol, but shipping would be a nightmare, yes. One day when our game takes off, I will get like an authentic TV and then have that set up so that visually we can see if we can capture it that way. Might even, theoretically speaking, I would love to actually get like an authentic TV and then actually... Instead of like make an overlay proper, what I would do is make a modified overlay with a camera that would be capturing it in live and then capturing the audio separately. Oh god, that'd be genius. And then basically capture it in a way that you're actually watching it come through an authentic TV or an old monitor. Because the thing is, that would be so different, I think, visually. But that's more of an artsy-fartsy idea. You still have, I can see it on the sidebar on Steam. I'll craft you a nice gun, Kibs. Shut up, woman. But yes, back to the project. Well, technically, all channel-related things are project-related. Yeah, that would have given away spoilers had I opened that. Also, as promised... In Legends of Terrestria, an early access piece of art is about to be released. I can't stream it, but I can post it. There we go. All right, in the Bickering Bunch discussions, if you would kindly, or not that, Legend of Terrestria, you will be able to see the art there. It's in the Discord server. It will also be released as well later when it is... Every time I try to change Pretender, it shakes fucking pretzel. There, behold. Her titties, Jen. A little spoiler. Hand over that thing, Rhea's cheeks. Wow. Yes, there are cheekums. And I noticed that the responses are going up there. Good. Good, Chet. Simp for Kib. Or simp for Rhea. She is the princess, after all. Like, it's pretty natural to do that, Chet. Like, okay, Kib. Okie dokie. Alright, so, we're back over here. Take a squeak peek. That diorama looks so cool. It's not even funny. We'll make more of these parody dioramas as we continue to increase our funding. So, moving on to the next point of subject today. Here's some test prints, how they turn out. They turn out pretty good, actually. Aerith cheeks, even. Turn out pretty good, too. Bada bing, bada bing. Fish cheeks. Oh, no. Fish. The upcoming race is being worked on for the Terrestria At War project. This is also a race that probably will be in the video game as well. I always say probably because I don't know where. I don't know, you know, maybe it won't be, maybe it will be. There will be races in the tabletop that will not be in the game due to the fact that in the video game, there are certain regions of Terrestria that they simply do not go. But, bear in mind that we crafted the entire world, so there is a whole fucking planet of stuff there. Look at chat fighting over which is best girl, Rhea or Aya, and Nezra's been forgotten. Like, oh. But there's a Gurukar. They're smaller than the average human. They are twisted. They were once humans, twisted and mutated by the witches, and, or born, mutated, depends. And that is that. All right. So the Gurukar coming along. Here's the first like compose sketch of them, an idea of them. Gurukar come in different shapes and sizes. The witches will be done next, and then followed by the Witch King. So yes, they are a very interesting race. They live in the far north above the kingdom of Ruthmere, which is currently in the start of the game in 1022 AE, the year of our little savior Celeste, so to speak. They dwell in the northern wastelands, so basically like tundra, very inhospitable. Originally, they were a conglomerate of different rejected peoples and tribes and clans that had basically been pushed out of Ruthmere and various other regions. Bear in mind that the Gurukar technically also extend further southwards, past Ruthmere and Ithrin and Arnor, into different other regions, but there are much less of them. They've been united by a Witch King, who basically has got all the witches as his bitches, so to speak. So it's quite an interesting faction that's in development. They've got some pretty cool magic, but I don't want to get into it too much yet until we have finalized the things to the point where I'm satisfied. But yeah, their mutation magic is pretty cool, and so that is something that I am quite excited. They're a very different faction than what the next one I was planning on doing, but we're going to focus on other ones. We got some mountain bugs that we're going to work on at some point. We've got some other things that I can't talk about even further out, but they're quite interesting. And there will be monsters and stuff added. Maybe we'll make some giant crubs, because giant crubs would be cool with their little crubs, because technically you couldn't field like an army of them. Well, sort of, because the river tribes did tame like crubbies, so yeah, we could do some stuff with that, and then we'll maybe do like the plague parasites, which are cool, or the great parasites. That'll be fun. Those will be very interesting. Lizardmen? No, they're not lizards. What makes you think they're dinosaurs? They go rare. They live in a very cold climate for them to be dinosaurs. Norska, no, wrong, chat, wrong. In fact, I think the biggest thing we were actually afraid of is that people would be like, oh my god, they look like orcs. And then we fixed that by simply just changing up their entire, like, features and stuff. That was the big thing that we were actually struggling with when we first started working on them. They're not really chaosy. In fact, they're more like just rejected people. Like, I think comparable factions in settings I could think of that you could probably see a closer analogy would be super mutants from Fallout, but like, not really. They're same because they're the mutants, like, I guess. They're also, like, outcasts from society. That's another one, I guess. After that, they sort of just, like, have no other similarities. But yes. Oh, woo orcs. They got little masks and they're glowy. They're actually Illumine mutants, so they were people that were born with the Illumine genes, much like Rhea, Aya, and Celeste were. But they also just don't have, like, it didn't quite stabilize. So when they were born, they were mutated in some way, and they were eventually pushed out of society. The Isle Misfit Toy Peepos. That's honestly a better fucking comparison than any of the other ones I've seen in chat. That's terrible. But it's a good one, kittens, and I'll give you that. Very good. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Like, about the minis, like, you can paint them however you want. Like, if you want Aerith to look like she's wearing an undershirt, like, whatever, just go ahead and paint one on. You can modify them however you want, too, in terms of, like, you can just, like, you know, kit bash and put stings on them. Like, you can do whatever you want to them. Like, we can't stop you. And first, I wouldn't want to begin with. The fact that people would be willing to modify them and be creative with these in ways we didn't originally intend would actually be both honoring and very incredible to see. Owie, I think I've actually scratched myself a little too hard there. Had a little bit of an itch. A little bit of an itch because I think I got a bug bite. There might be a mosquito in here. That is very, very, very unfortunate for me, and very fortunate for the mosquito, it would seem. He has had a little bit of a snack. Technically, she... What other things can I move into? I didn't get everything prepped in time because I was so busy working. There's a meme. All right, so I need to go get the other things. As expected. I work so much I can't get enough progress. It's fucking awful. All right, so let's see. No, we don't want that yet. That's true. All right, chat, listen to this. I got an audio file sent to me by little Yazumi, who is still alive, by the way. Bear in mind, this. I hope this isn't loud. You paid for this, chat, by the way. God damn it. Balls. I hope you're proud of yourself, chat. Not only did we get Pancake to do it, but we also got Yazumi to do it. So I hope you're proud of yourselves, chat. I told you, chat, like, you'd misunderstand your power. Like, financially speaking, you are capable of making a studio do wonderful and also very cursed things, I'll say that much. Also, the special Chatfish request has been completed. A new slot for $100 has just opened up for another Chatfish request. So, if you want to request another piece of art, and I will show you in just about a moment's time, there is a one. If multiple people donate for that slot, then it'll be Chatfish design, meaning that you guys will design it together with the artist himself. I'm about to show you a preview of it. Oh, that's perfect. That actually moved it into an actual perfectly centered position. All right, so I'm just paranoid. I'm always paranoid with YouTube because I can never trust them to be open-minded about creatives. They're open-minded about, you know, rainbow flags and all sorts of other stuff, but God help me if I just want to have a little bit of anime girl, you know what I'm saying? Okay. The Aya Fox Girl request has been completed. And so there is a new request slot now available for yours for only $100 dues. This, by the way, the reason why we're doing this is to make sure that these support artists are always able to be funded and be funded without having to worry about them ever, you know, being, what's the word? It's to mitigate the cost of them being on the team. That way, we don't have to worry about them ever losing their job on the team. So these requests can be basically whatever. They can be sorted out between you and the artist. I'll just hook you up with the artist, and then you figure out whatever you want, and you get it made. And yes, there's a little chatfish on it, and it's adorable. He's just very happy about the situation. He's just very... Fish cake. Yep, cup fish. I do like that little Easter egg. That was very cute. I think that's my favorite part of this drawing is the chatfish, honestly. They're just so adorable. Every time I see them, I can't help but smile. Okay. And that is the support piece taken care of. Very good. Very good. All right. Time to go into the developer server and nick more things out of there. Nick more things. It's true. I just have to keep stealing stuff. Is there... You know what? No. I've decided against it. But I was hoping that the artist had posted that latest version because I wanted to show that. I've not wanted to post it yet, so we'll hold on to that for later. I don't want to share that just yet, chat. It's a bit of a squeakret. A bit of a surprise for later. Tomaz Wota donates 10 euros. Say, Chatfish is higher in hierarchy than Kib. Just look at the screen. How handsome we are. How intelligent. How wise. How humble. Oh, how lucky Kib has to be graced by our sheer presence. Sounds like Chatfish propaganda. Yes, Kib. Oh, the little fishies are just making stuff up now. Oh, little shits and little... Where did we put the other thing? I had a thing on fucking my bar, and then I dropped it, because of course I drop it. So it's just always dropping something. Drop this, drop that, whatever. You know, you name it, chat. Yeah. Perfection, chat. So progress on the game is going very, very good. I'm going to meet with our lead programmer, Tibbers, and co-founder tonight, and we're going to discuss the video game progress, and we're going to discuss plans about the closed prototype, because the closed combat prototype is getting closer and closer. We are so far still on schedule, which is good. You have no idea how happy I am. Like, I am the least stressed out I think I've ever been in my entire, like, ever since we started doing this indie project. Like, honestly, I'm so at fucking peace right now. It's not even funny. It's crazy, chat. It's crazy. Let's just do. Oh, Kib wanted to see. Kib was going to mention what it did, but Kib forgot already. Kib forgot. There's just so much progress. The project is so massive. It's just impossible, really. Well, it's not really impossible, but it sometimes can be overwhelming to see how much is being worked on and how much is being made at the same time. Robert's working on boss music stuff, which is going to be pretty fucking amazing, with an amazing melody. Good job, Roberto Renato. Bafios is continuing to work on the spear beak stuff, and the spear beaks are looking really fucking cool. They take a long time to make. But yeah, that was just showing the shadows casting in different buildings. So when it comes to the game's code and programming, one of the next things that's being worked on is the deployment phase. So we talked about this before, but now the deployment phase, the ability to deploy characters once a combat encounter has happened, is now being implemented next. And the basic rudimentary animation system has also been implemented. Rapier Kamigawa donates $100. I probably shouldn't, but I would like that art slot. Thank you for your very generous donation, Rapier Kamigawa. Let me just hook you up with him now so that we can get that ball rolling and you don't have to wait. The sooner the art starts, the faster it'll get done. Rapier Kamigawa at Elicard. Slot this month. Perfect. Thank you for your very generous donation. That's a good use, Chatfish. If you repeat a lie often, it will become a truth. That's how Chatfish will dominate Kibs. Oh, I see how it is. I was like, where's this going? Game dev hard. Good job, Robert. Game development is not easy, no. Especially considering the fact that we want to do things that developers aren't doing anymore. And we want to do things that aren't really being thought of either anymore. So we're kind of picking up what... The way I look at it is like we're going through dusty ruins of like a fallen ancient empire, right? That's basically the genre we're in right now. And we're like, wow, this is cool. And we're trying to like restore it to its former prestige and glory. That's kind of what the Terrestria or the Mixer's Legend of Terrestria video game has been like. Is it's basically winding back the clock, looking at tons of other developers' stuff and ideas, and basically trying to pick up their torch that has, you know, long since lost its flame and has been left there collecting dust, and trying to figure out how to carry that forward into the next age. And to basically bring it up to speed and, like, bring it to our world, so to speak. Bring it up, bring glory, bring the golden age back. Temper Tantrum donates $2 say, Chatfish, don't disgrace yourself. Don't waste muns on stupid things, but consider our hashtag sock fund. I see how it is. That's $2 for the sock fund. Very generous. Very generous indeed. Thank you for your generous donation. I'm really looking forward to the combat alpha. Me too. Honestly, me too. So, okay. One thing we're working on right now as well is we're also working on combat abilities. Studio Jones plus British Empire plus Boobas. Yeah, basically. Like, that is kind of what this project feels like at times. Because it's like, a lot of it's researching long-lost projects or dead games that don't exist anymore, or genres. And be like, okay, like, if this was still a popular genre, and that was actually having good games made for it, like, what would they be doing now? How do we make this better? What did they do back then that they didn't ever evolve on in the present, or what direction did the present go that was, in my opinion, a mistake? And often I look at things like Mass Effect, and I look at Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and I look at the slow, gradual mistake from leaving the original ideas of 1, and going to 2, and then going to 3. The gradual loss of the RPG factor, and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, how can I apply that to our game? Because our game isn't the same in the sense that you don't have a blank slate character, right? Narratively, you have a pre-script character that already has a family and, like, a position and a status in the world. So they're tethered to a world, tethered to an ethos, and tethered to several things. But how can with that amount of knowledge, how can we use that character to create decisions? And how do we give those decisions not only narrative impact, but how do we give them gameplay impact? The ability for a decision to actually have gameplay ramifications, rather than, I did a quest for somebody and, you know, it doesn't, you know, do anything later. Now, granted, there's always limitations, so there's not, like, a lot you can do with it. So no apology letter like most game devs when game releases? Sounds good, man. Why would there be an apology letter? What? Our game isn't going to release until you guys are satisfied with it, along with myself, too, by the way. I'm throwing me in there, too. Because the idea with the game's development that we're developing is that we're going to develop it together. I mean, we already are. The only issue is we're not at a stage where we can bring you guys on board yet. However, the big thing I'm excited for this year is the part where we bring you guys into the fold, and you begin to do your role on the project as well, helping us fine-tune it, helping us weed out the bad designs and you know, hone in the perfection. Focus in on making it a good game. No anti-player bias. No, none of that shit. That's the same problem I saw with Games Lab and their anti-player bias. I don't know why that is such a prolific thing. Our game is a PvE game. It's a single-player RPG game. So the goal of the game is for it to be fun, challenging, and exciting to play. Like, the combat should be epic. It should be awesome. You should have cool characters that do cool abilities with synergy between them, and basically tactics and making your decisions matter. Not just narratively, but gameplay-wise as well. That was a big thing. That's why we're trying to reduce the RNG factor from, like, the modern games like XCOM and focus on tactical decision-making. So all the skills and abilities, the idea with them, not all of them, obviously, some of them are just, you know, your average damage or this or that, but giving them a more utility function so that they do more interesting things. And that's kind of what we're hoping for. Yeah, penetrating a choice across narrative arcs would be kind of impossible unless you cap on some variants and have a godly level of scripting on collateral NPCs. Yeah, so how I broke down story structure, here, you know what? Gibbos will show you. Because there is such a thing as a limit, right? I mean, there always has been. I don't know why I'm posing that as a question. So, like, let's just open up this little doc here and let me just paint a picture for you. There, I'm gonna make Aya's plate empty, and we're just gonna play with this plate for a second here. All right, so I'm gonna make little dots to represent things, right? So we have the black dot, which is going to represent the primary storyline, right? This is how the game is more or less structured. There's the primary arc above all, right? That's like the beginning, middle, and end. That's the universal storyline, meaning that at all points, the universal storyline is separate, right? And in our game, there's another line. We'll use pink to color that one, just because it makes sense, because like Astria, like, oh, I missed, like a purple would have been better. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But either way, pink represents the national storyline, and then we'll use like, you know, yellow or whatever. And yellow represents like the character's storyline. Sometimes these things are connected at certain points, and they influence things going forward when it comes to like certain characters and your interactions. Other times they do not. There's also one other layer I like to think of the game as, and the final layer is this green color we'll use here, and that is like the contained quest. Those are like side quests that don't really bleed over too much. However, sometimes, because of how I want the game to be structured, sometimes I want these to cross over here, if that makes sense. And like at some point, like this stuff here crosses up to here as well. Like, but it's all at compartments. So the story is constructed in such a way that it's constructed in compartments. I don't know if this is making sense to you, but some of you story writers might actually be grasping what I'm saying, and I'm desperately hoping. So the game is compartmented like sequences like this. So there's a little sequence, and then that's that sequence there. So the fact that this crossed over here for that part of the story is not a concern until you go back to the zone. So it's done in Z's, which we'll call zoning. So this zoning system is to basically create a compartmentalized system so that decisions made in certain zones that affected certain national things in that zone are only retained to that zone and don't bleed over. However, things do cross back over down as well. So like, let's say you made a decision over there, right, with the green thing, and like that had a character amplification in the narrative for the nation. However, or that region could be nation, town, village, whatever. But later, the characters will talk about that, so it'll be cross-referenced. Now, the implementation of that's not going to be as big, because it'll be like, okay, like Rhea, I, and Nezra, you did like a thing. Rhea made a call, and maybe I doesn't agree with the call you made as Rhea during that village. It's like, you know, they were infected as zombies, but you killed them all. You know, you pulled an Arthas, but, you know, she didn't agree with it. And that will be referenced later, and the characters will talk about those events that you had done. That's to try to make it feel more tethered to the world. And other regions that you go to might be affected by that same green line later, because they might have heard something. Other characters might bring that up. That might close off something down the road, that might not. The idea with the system like this is that we're compartmentalizing story arcs into different zoning. So that way it doesn't bleed over too much. The idea of zoning is to prevent the sort of butterfly effect of decisions getting out of hand when it comes to narrative. And so things crossing over to different lines is fine, so long as it's in a respective zone and it's marked. Every decision narratively, when it comes to my job, needs to be marked at the end of a chapter. So let's say chapter 1 of the video game. There's a decision you make and it leads to the death of somebody for whatever reason. Were you in, like, okay, what does that death do? Could that person have lived? Is that a possible arc there? And so any point that character would have been in the story later needs to be, excuse me, Coca-Cola made me belch a little bit, needs to be supplemented with the equal level of content or a substitute of content, so that you're not penalized for doing a decision that I don't think you should be penalized for doing. Like, there is no such thing as right or wrong in the sense of writing the story, at least from my point of view. Now, the world has different ethoses and they have different values. So people will view things differently and they have a sense of right and wrong. Even Rhea does, right? But as a writer, I don't care about that. Like, in the terms of like narratively and how it impacts things, that's the thing that I need to focus on. Steam tab, choices matter. Well, choices will matter to a degree. The idea with the zoning system is to make decisions narratively matter in a way I wish other games had done it. And this is more or less my my proposed theory, which has yet to be fully put into practice for the game. My proposed theory on how to make decisions matter in the game storyline and have more of an effect. Like, for example, let's say like the pink line here, right? In this part of the zone, you made a character decision here, which led to it could be like a cascading thing. You made a character decision to marry off Nezra, right? That would tether a green line there, which would have a diplomatic marriage thing, which would affect a national thing. That gives you access to soldiers from that empire as they send troops to help in your coalition war against insert big bad here, right? And so now that tethers to the that line there. So the universal storyline is now affected as well. And you also need to factor in the fact that not only is the narrative, this is a narrative thing, but that's also a gameplay thing. So the gameplay's warfare mode system will now have that in effect. So instead of it being like, oh, you have, these Astrian troops and, these nations you brought with in coalition, well, now the Cardovians are arriving with their great axe warriors. And the Cardovian prince himself, who married Nezra, is also arriving because this dispute has become family business now. So now you have access to new soldiers on the warfare mode that you wouldn't have had otherwise. The warfare mode system is my solution to the problem that I saw in BioWare games, and not just BioWare games, but a lot of games, where there'd be an RPG event, there's a story, and you're like building up for a big climactic confrontation, but the climactic confrontation, you didn't get to do anything. Like in Mass Effect 3, it's the most notable one because the one that was the hardest for me was you built a coalition, right? And this one stuck with me because it burned into my memory forever. And there was no gameplay effect for it for whatever reason. Like it was just a cutscene. Like a cutscene's not good enough. If your entire game's built on this climactic buildup of like this huge confrontation, and that results in a slightly different cutscene, but the endings are the same. Like, if you're going to do the endings be the same, at least give some gameplay ramifications for these choices. And so my solution, or my partial solution, part of it, was to make the warfare mode. The warfare mode of the game exists to give large things happening in the world an actual gameplay factor. So when Nidus is waging like different battles and wars and stuff, their uncle, like the player will take control of Nidus and actually participate in those battles, and each regiment will have captains and stuff like that, and the whole army will be a living organism, not just living organism is not the proper word. The whole army will be its own party, basically. Let's put it that way. So you'll have multiple parties technically in this game. Should be careful, might give away too much, but you know what I mean. Like, you'll have multiple parties, and you'll be managing these parties, and these parties will be doing different things in the world, and they'll also be interacting with each other. Like, Rhea and Nezra engage in the standard tactical combat system, where it's character on character, man on monster, so to speak, fighting. Fuck off, Epic! And then the other thing is, fucking annoying piece of shit. The other thing is, like, and that'll have narrative impact, too. Like, you might be able to, like Rhea and Nezra might do something in a region which gets support for Nidus, they get more troops secured. And so the war effort's now easier or alleviated, or you can follow a different decision where you go a different path completely. One thing about the zoning system I wanted was that these actual lines here, by the way, will eventually come to a point. This isn't spoiling per se, but this does reveal to you my train of thinking. This will come to a point which it will do something like this. I used the wrong pen, so it looks a little weird. Where it will split, and then it will carry forward. This is the thing that I've dreamt about for ages. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to happen to all these things, because generally they'll all tie in to this, more or less. They might not necessarily split. Like a character arc, by the way, this character arc will be like, there's several sub-arcs, because Rhea, then Aya, than Nezra. So there's subcategories underneath that as well for character arcs and stuff like that. Like Astrian Empire might have its own arc, and then there might be like another one for a different nation. And then that's how it relates and ties in. Because technically they're different lines, different zoning. And that's the idea there. Battlefront Broadcast says, love your channel and miss you on the Archcast. Yeah, I couldn't make my quotas, so I had to start streaming on Saturdays as well to generate revenue to make sure the studio could stay funded. Arch and I are still good friends, and we collaborate regularly on this channel as well. You'll also be seeing me occasionally pop over for movie reviews on Archcast, as well as you'll see me help co-cast the upcoming Blood Bowl series, which is much more, it works into my time schedule a little bit better. Sadly, the Archcast just didn't work into my time schedule anymore. At least not for now. And he's already got a new guest, which is a good guy named B. He's got a good heart. Little B man. Anywhere you can directly support us besides YouTube, you can. Via Streamlabs donations, which are linked in the description, subscribe star, Patreon, and stuff of that nature. I'm giving chat insights on how the story of our game works, or how I envision it working. And so so you guys understand the idea of zoning. Zoning is also a so the big Z, right? Zoning is also locales, region zoning as well. Zoning doesn't just refer to the chapters as compartments, because the idea of the story structure in my mind, when I close my eyes, is I actually think of this as a boat. This is a boat with different compartments and levels on each boat. And the compartments are sectioned off so that they don't necessarily bleed over in case there's spillage, so to speak, you know, water overflowing. So that's kind of the idea there, is that they go different directions. This is my idea for a video game narrative structure that has more ramification. Now, one thing I do need to emphasize, though, the reason why studios don't do this here is the studio's probably worst nightmare. What's worse yet is if our game does something like this, which I'm not saying it does, but there's a reason why they don't do that, because everything in this zone now, everything in this zone here is not going to tie back in together, because narratively the universal split has become too big that they are technically different timelines entirely. The ramifications of these events are too big to be tethered back together. This does raise the excellent question: what happens in number 2? Project number 2, the continuation of project number 1, will need to take into account these fucking things. Like, okay, so this is something I'm struggling with today even. Because this is an endpoint, this is an endpoint, this is an endpoint. This is like the game's end, right? So like there was a whole chapter where you had 4 different chapters based on what you did. Our game is planned to do something like this, where at some point in the game, you'll be playing it and you'll talk to somebody who played this game as well, and you'll be like, what? My game didn't have any of that stuff in it. I didn't do any of that, because the game's going to split. And this split thing has been something very, very stressful to make. And there's a reason why I say, like, there's a reason why other studios don't do this, because this is a lot of work. Instead, it's like writing a chapter for a story, but instead of writing a chapter, I'm writing like 6 things. And then that's, oh God, it's worse because, okay, so you notice how there's different black lines here? Now these little subcategory lines need to fall underneath each one of these black lines, because that's technically a different timeline. To understand how chaotic that gets in terms of narrative and writing is to be like, oh my God, like that's just like, okay, the character arcs are also changed by it, because a time split like that with events so catastrophically different that it's going to reshape and redefine characters completely different in how they react and behave. This is my attempt to make choices actually matter. And my attempt, I realized one thing simple: there is no shortcut here. If you want your players' decisions to matter, you are going to have to do it. Now, in a game that's procedurally generated with AI generation stuff, that's whatever. That's not hard to do because an AI just does it, right? This is hard because this is a scripted adventure. This is with massive differentials in terms of gameplay and design here. But this is hopefully to increase replay value, because there'll be 4 distinct different possible outcomes to the game that'll have completely different chapters that will give you complete reason to replay the game and adventure again, and maybe try different paths with the character arcs. My hopes is that by doing that, you'll experience, you know, the different possible stories in the Terrestrian timeline, and that might spark your imagination to think about the setting more. And maybe when the pen and paper is released, you'll definitely want to embark on your own adventure in the same world, and then try out your own story arcs with friends. And the Terrestria At War tabletop game will be a plug-in system for the pen and paper system. So you'll be able to plug in the bigger battles, just like in the video game, in the same way to the actual adventure itself. That'll be cool. Oh gosh, the video game is huge. I do want to make the best thing is the sequel. So it's important to talk about the sequel, right? Because it's like, Kibs, this one's not even done. Well, it's important to talk about it because I have to have stuff done for it as the director. Because as soon as, let's say Sala finishes all his work, well, what the heck is Sala going to do to earn money? Sala needs to go work, otherwise he's going to starve to death, right? So I've got stuff laid out for project number 2. Project number 2 is related to project number 1. We are investing into building an IP and a franchise here. This is the creation and the birth of a new setting. So it's all tethered together. The big thing right here with this thing, and the reason why I brought this up, is because this affects directly project number 2. Okay? That's gonna suck. I imagine the one benefit is project number 2 will benefit from the fact that we'll have an engine to work with and core features and mechanics to work with. However, project number 2's big challenge is going to be not necessarily refinement and improvement of those systems. That's going to be the easy thing. It's going to be the narrative aspect. That's going to be the trickiest part. There's a reason why there's a writing team and why we're carefully planning things out in advance on what arcs are possible and the endings, and fine-tuning those endings, even though the endings have been done for a while, because we got to make sure that they're composed to a T and that there's a general idea of what goes forward. Because in order to plan for a long story where your decisions matter in a game series, you need to pre-plan all of this. The groundwork must be laid. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I call this the universal timeline? This is not the universal timeline. This is the game timeline. There's actually one more. I completely forgot. It's like runs here, okay? This is the universal timeline. This is like the overarching like main story, and then that ties in at the end of the game, and depending on which endings, it ties in like that, or like, you know, like that, depending on where. Because that's how it ties into the universal timeline. So technically I missed a layer there, because character, yep, and then side quest, and then side quest is very compartmentalized. I like to think of that as like honestly beneath character, and character is actually above that, honestly. But and then you have like the national, like big, like world arcs, and then you have the game's overarching timeline, and then you have the universal timeline, which is tethered to the core of the universe storyline. I forgot about that one line. God damn it. Just tell AI to make your game easy peasy. Yeah, and it'll fuck up all of this because it needs to tie to a certain point. I suppose LOT2 will be the first RPG with multiple beginnings rather than just multiple endings. Not necessarily. I can't say yes or no, but I can say that there will be completely different chapters. Because just like in the other game, anytime a sequence that directly affects it, depending on how... See, I have to be careful what I say, or otherwise you're going to figure something out. How do I word this? Basically, just imagine that there are certain sequences that will be completely different than others if it tethers in any way to any of those arcs. And depending on the gravity of those arcs, it might be more obvious than others. I think that explains it enough without giving away too much. Worst part is it's already planned out. Oh my god. Like, chat, okay, so another thing I'm working on right now, by the way, and I can't talk to you too much about it, it is related to Celeste's song. It is part of my, it is the scariest thing I've ever worked on, honestly. It's scary due to the fact that, not that it's scary as in like a spooky, scary game. What scares me about working on this prologue is, it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things I think I've ever done. And I can't really talk about why it's hard, other than it's hard because I am doing something that isn't necessarily conventional, but it's also not necessarily something I'm afraid of. Like, I think that this is actually going to be the most exciting thing for you to see and play. Because the prologue is going to... It's going to be like... I don't know. I'm curious to see how you'll react when you play it. We'll see. I don't want to muddy the water too much, but we'll see how you behave. Or not behave, but how you react when you play it. I want to see that. Because after the combat prototype, the prologue is the next focus. There's going to be Witcher 2 level changes. Problem is, I've never played Witcher 2 beyond like 15 minutes, so that doesn't give me any idea what you're talking about. He's like, oh. This is playing Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, rebuilding over the ruins and defiled corpse. What? Oh, no, we're not replacing Tolkien in any way here, no. Honestly, no, that's impossible. Firstly, this story has nothing to do with Tolkien's work. Tolkien's work is wonderful for what it does and what it did. However, this is not related. God, Kibs, will she singing this last intro? No, but Celeste has a song, and there's a planned diorama of the song, and the song is related to the prologue. It is not an easy challenge. Not an easy challenge at all. And Aya tells her, Aya disappeared, and when she finds her, she, crotchety old lady who refuses to train her, then Aya tells her no one is ever really gone. What the fuck? I don't know. The sequel stars Celeste's granddaughter, who was raised by as a scout. Oh no, I see what you're doing. Make it like Undertale, that when the game ends, your character gets sent back to the original timeline, where you saved and died for the first time with all the level ups. What? I've never played through Undertale. I remember I was requested to play it, and I played it for a little bit and was like, it's kind of boring. This is kind of boring. J.R.R. Kibs. Alright, we're gonna jump out a window now. Chat, don't fucking praise me like that. Like that, I feel like that's an insult to Tolkien. I've yet to earn any praise because I haven't made that yet there. We're not there yet, but we will be there soon. Before you know it, all my theories will be put into implementation. Besides, what Tolkien did was very different too. Like, he did stories for books and stuff. What we're talking about is interactive medias and narratives. We're not the same in the slightest. Because I'm working on an interactive media, which is a very different beast. Mostly because you have to handle multiple story arcs and interactive story arcs, meaning that players can influence them. But Kib, you're the savior of the fantasy genre. Oh, now it's the fantasy genre. We're just adding more titles now. It's like, yes, savior of the fantasy industry. New Game Plus, basically meh. New Game Plus. I have plans for New Game Plus. Mostly because I have an interesting idea for it. I have also good plans for difficulty. Now that I have a better grasp of difficulties, I want difficulty not to be factored by modifiers necessarily. Rather, I want to rebalance encounters. Okay, so to explain my thought process here, one of my biggest inspirations for this idea came from a modder by the name of Ruby's Rebalance Mods, who had a fantastic idea on how to balance levels. And after seeing his work and playing with it myself, like I feel like that is a far better way to handle difficulty than I think anything else. But Kibs, what's Brian on about? I'm so confused. He's rambling. Christopher, that's J.R.R. Tolkien's son. He's part of the reason why they polished all that stuff. Oh yeah, that's what you're talking about. By the by, asks Entropia Contendente, you mentioned filling up holes in narrative quests if womb pieces are missing. Woman pieces? You have to clarify that part there. Missing by player action. Does that extend to replacing dead tunes with others for quests? That's the interesting part. So I don't want to say yes to that, because what would be dumb about that is, like, imagine it's like, oh, like this character, I like their narrative, but like they're suboptimal, so you just kill them off so you get the more optimal character. Like, that feels very gamey, and so probably not. There are tons of characters that will be in like the party with very varying skills and abilities. If a few of them die, you won't really notice. You won't really know. It's like, what do you mean? No, I'm kidding. You'll probably notice. Considering, okay, so another thing to talk about characters and skills. So right now, Robin and I and the other team, or well, the rest of the team, we are working on the skills and abilities for Aya, Nezra, Rhea, and Celeste. And we're also working on the abilities of the Nefir Experiment, which is our first NPC of the game. He's going to be a spearman. Now, it's awful that we picked a spearman, because spearmen are quite awful in terms of how they work, because spears are actually very effective weapons. Spears. So the combat prototype might be a little hard, okay? So you're just spearmen on cancer. And it's like, well, you know, it is what it is. And it's, until we can animate the next soldier types, you'll have to settle for the fact that the spearman's the only one in at the moment. I'm not sure when we get to the actual combat prototypes release if we'll have animated more of the enemy types in yet. But for now, it's just the enemy spearman is the base one. That's the one we're working with in the programming side right now. But yeah, so basically, like, the idea is that each character has unique abilities. No character really is exactly the same in terms of how they do how they play. Like, Rhea is a hybrid melee character. She's very fast. She's very nippy. She's also a frontline caster support. And you can also build characters slightly different. Like, for example, Aya is your stereotypical support priestess. However, she can also be built to be basically a giant artillery cannon that's lobbing all sorts of nasty stuff. Instead of, you know, providing like necessarily all the healing support, maybe she's actually providing artillery fire in the form of singularities, locking down enemies, pulling enemies into a pile, then using like AoE spells, then bursting on them, and doing all sorts of stuff like that, or like, you know, blowing them around the map with fucking like explosions and stuff, things of that nature. That's what the idea with that. Like, for example, the girls actually, so the game is actually balanced in a way where the girls are actually kind of like potato-y, and they're made up, but that makes up for it is the fact is they have a Lumine, so that does help them quite a bit. Because Rhea's not particularly that great. Like, Arano, we haven't shown him off too much, but he's like he looks like Riker, honestly. But he is the tower shield bro. He is basically the son of the Northern House Torius. He's the heir apparent to the house, and he is quite the bonky boy. Like, he can fucking shield charge and shield bash. He uses his giant tower shield to be an absolute nightmare, pushing and moving things around. Rhea is like maneuverable. She can basically use different attacks or abilities to basically maneuver around and disengage from enemies much easier. So the idea is that the characters can interplay and do different synergy. Like, Rhea can actually flank around, if I'm right, with an attack we have planned where she uses a certain guard stance and then attacks and then basically maneuvers through a maneuvering attack to maneuver through the opponent into the opposite side of the opponent and stuff of that nature. Like, for example, they can also use heat. So, you know, you're probably familiar with Battletech's heat system, where you mechs in that universe generate heat, and then, you know, it blows up your mech. You know, it powers down. Well, in our universe, we have a similar system. It's also generates heat, because energy in ours also operates with the idea of heat generation. Well, however, ours is a bit different because it's magic, and so heat is actually a resource as well as a positive and negative factor. So by generating heat activates new abilities for certain casters, like Rhea and her Starsteel Sword, and certain magic imbued items can actually be empowered by the heat byproduct as another source of energy to charge artifacts and items and charms. So the idea that casting stuff is something you want to do and you won't be punished for casting. The idea is that you'll be punished for overcasting, but the idea is to build heat cleverly. I as a priestess, I am Miko outfit. Well, I is a priestess of the Celestial Order. Generally speaking, normally what happens to what do you call it? The Volan line is they normally either become Templars or priests because they're all Illumine related, and the religious order, the Celestial Order, is tethered very closely to any casters. In most societies, religion is generally tethered pretty closely. Basically watching characters. I don't know how that's related. Is Kibs again? What? How is that related at all? Cook off. Can we make Rhea go critical and explode? Well, she wouldn't necessarily explode. It's more like her organs would probably liquefy. But I mean, it's possible to combust, I suppose. Maybe, George Sprex. I say maybe because we haven't finished getting... I do want environmental effects. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not... See, realistically, I should never say, like, oh, like, we're going to do that. Because, like, it's like, that is something I want to do. Tactically, I need to say that because otherwise I might put something in somebody's mind. You know what I mean. But yes, I do want environmental effects to actually play a part into the combat. Because our game is a tactical combat system, and I think the environment very much plays a role in the combat system as a whole. So strategically placing characters in certain areas should be a goal. The map should be looked at tactically as different advantageous points, and you should be able to plan around it. The idea of combat as a whole, as my idea goes, is that we give you tons of cool utility and powers and abilities, and each battle encounter is a sandbox for you to explore those powers and abilities to win each encounter. There'll obviously be ideas behind certain ones of them, but the idea is not to force it to be gimmicky, so that the solution is basically play the game how you want to play and find the optimal, like, what you find fun to do, and then just enjoy that. The same goes with the difficulty idea. The difficulty idea is not to balance the encounter by buffing things and modifiers with health increases or decreases or debuffs or handicaps. It's actually to change each combat encounter. The difficulty we'll make in the initial stage will probably just be like normal or something, which is probably not nearly as fun as hard, to be honest. Because the way I envision hard is actually going to be that there'll be more... It's changing the encounter. So imagine you have a scene, right, where the Rhea and Ezra are fighting in a city or a town or a village or whatever. And they encounter a bunch of enemies. There's like 4 spearmen and 3 bowmen and like maybe a bannerman or whatever doing buffs. And maybe there's like a war dog or something. It's not a particularly interesting encounter. It's pretty like a small little combat encounter, right, for you to get through. But imagine you turn up the difficulty, and now instead of it being like 3 spearmen, it's like, okay, there's 2 slave masters with like their catchers, and now there's 2 spearmen, and instead of bowmen, we're actually going to give them like you know, like these weapons instead. And then there's a couple of extra dudes here, you know, that are completely positioned differently. And the idea is that the encounter itself changes because of it. Like, let's say we have a big battle, right, where you're helping Astrians defend a wall, and it's in the tactical combat mode, not the warfare one, clear to make that. And so when we turn up the difficulty, there's more enemies, but also, instead of it being like there's just, you know, 2 Astrian warriors fighting alongside you, now there's 4 Astrian soldiers that you get to control, and an Astrian bannerman as well. So the idea is upping the scale and intensity of the combat encounter rather than arbitrary buffs and debuffs on the overall stat lines of every character and spell and ability. To basically mean that difficulty is like more so intensity. Meaning that, yes, it's going to be more difficult and more chaotic. We've given the enemies a lot more tools to play with and a lot more access to more of the dangerous enemies, but we've also given you some new units to also up the intensity of the combat encounter. Upping the intensity is, I think, the focus, making it more chaotic. Todd, don't you say Chatfish funds Weebo art of Astrian women alt? What? Todd, you need to clarify a little. AH30 has followed. Thank you for following us on Twitch. Appreciate it. So are you going to have an absolute amount of main timelines, like 6 or something? There already is, and I'm not going to tell you yet, because that tells you how many endings there will be in the game. But there is a hard line on how many primary timelines there are. Mostly because there's no such thing as infinite, because infinite means I'd be writing this forever, and then we'll never finish this game, and then I will die of old age, and you'll be very upset at me. You'll be very upset. Because it still wouldn't be done. There is a hard set limit on how many possible things that can happen in certain ways. Yes. But the idea is that we're scripting a lot of them so that there's a ton of reasons to replay the game, because to see the different endings, to see what's different if you formed an alliance with that, or maybe if you did an invasion here instead of there. And, you know, different paths. Weebo, Chinoise, social media, or Weeaboo. What? I'm confused. Good night, Moogie. Endless hordes of babies. Can we make Ria's organs get cooked, then have her sisters eat them? You're very funny, Oreo, but I think it's time we put you in some milk. He's like, no. Old man Kibs at a farm. E-I-E-I-O. Yeah, basically. Kibs writing the 69th timeline dead. Yeah, basically. Like, Chad wanted more. I'll give you more. Possible outcomes. The other idea is that the game will be pretty easy to edit, I'm hoping. So the game is being built with a custom-built editor. I want the game to be basically fully put together with our own editor, meaning that all encounters and the entire game is built with the editor, in the same way Warcraft 3 was, because I think that was genius. And the idea is that making custom levels or custom quests or custom, like, timelines even as a whole or chapters should be possible with modding tools. I just hope modders will explore our game. I hope. We'll do everything we can to help them, but we're also limited on resources. Again, if we can increase funding, we can do more. One of the problems, though, is it will increase development time, but I'm willing to increase development time if it helps the modders in a significant way. But that depends on if a modding scene starts to grow. In the testing phase, I hope we'll see some people start tweaking it, but we'll see. Then in terms of your timelines, why don't you use a probability index that assigns score based on the activation of the events? Then in the sequel, use AI to alter conversations and environments. No, I don't like that. I do not want to use AI in any way, shape, or form with our project. Everything must be handcrafted. No artificial intelligence is to be used. Chat pays us to work, and so we're going to work. We're not going to offload that work onto an AI. That goes for all dialogue and interactions. They must be written. They must be worked for. Offloading it onto an AI is unacceptable. Battle Damage Studios doesn't work with beep boops, but we do work with people, so you know, there's that. I think AI is pretty cool, but it's not something I want to have anything to do with my project at all. Because the problem with AIs is that they actually steal from other people's work because it's an algorithm and it's not really an AI. That's not really accurate. And I don't want other people's work slipping into mine. Because in terms of coding, that happens in coding sense. I think it's just as bad as it happens narratively or artistically. Everything must be built up, ground up, from the beginning. No shortcuts. Give enough tools and modders will look at this game. I hope they do. I don't care if they overhaul it and turn it into like a Star Wars mod. It'd still be fucking cool. I want a flourishing modding community. It's a big demand, and that is a big ask, I know. Kib must be bred, so Kibs too can carry on the game development. Fuck your sake. But yeah, no. The narrative work is my responsibility and my job. I will actually write it all. Now, if people want to mod in like chat AI stuff and they mod that in, and so that there's like more like whatever things, that's fine. But that's a modding question, not a Kib question. I don't mind people modding that stuff in. I've got nothing against that. In fact, when you buy the game, in my opinion, you should be able to do whatever you want with it. Break it, tweak it, whatever. Play it, don't. You bought it, you do what you want. Your business, not mine. The things that Kibs hired, definition of people gets rather broad. Wow. That's mean. More than Star Wars stuff, you won't need a bunch of NSFW stuff. Listen, if chat want to do that, or if people want to make NSFW of our characters or setting, you know, that's awesome. They should definitely send it to the team, because the team actually probably would like to see it. Unironically. It's actually flattery to the team whenever anyone draws fan art of our characters or work. We love that stuff. Can I be released from the milk now? No, you will disintegrate. He's like, nah. 18 plus Sprite pack. Listen, chat. Not saying it's impossible, but you never know. Well, then the index stuff still applies. You can have a list of narratives based on the combined possibilities that occur in the first game. If you map that, it could make it easier. Oh, I've got it already taken care of on my end. Appreciate the suggestions, but like I don't want AIs related to any of my work. It is handcrafted. It is a work of love. It is a work of passion. And AI removes the passion, removes the soul. And the one thing our game has that makes us truly stand out from everything else is the fact that we're the only thing left with soul. At least as far as I can see. Starts crying. Give Dono for the question. What? Aya equals Jap Shrine Priestess. Rhea equals Samurai. I mean, if you want to commission fan art of it, you be my guest. $100 a slot. He's like, nah. And thank you for the generous donation, Todd. Sorry that slipped through my little eyeballs. The first modders will find that nude models come already built. If modders are clever enough, I don't know if the Sala will probably release it, but the Rhea, Aya, and Nezra portraits are actually fully nude underneath. Believe it or not. Maybe we'll set a donation goal for that to be released at some point. But yes, Sala in his spare time to decompress, because making those is very, very stressful and a lot of work, just drew the what they look like underneath. Damn. My god, the bucketfish are wriggling. But they're not wriggling very fast. Give nudes. Gosh darn, chat. Ow. That hurts. A little bit of an uncomfortable bug bite there. Need to stop itching it. Give it a couple of software and hardware generations. The APCs will have souls more than our own. Well, that's great. That's something you can explore on your free time. With your own money and resources. Kib wants to build his dream game for his dream community that he's building, that he's been working on. If people want to mod things in, that's great. More power to you. The idea is that the game will hopefully have a workshop fully integrated too, so that it'll be pretty easy for people to muck around with. Oh my god. Weird. It might be my next art campaign, says Dodd. Damn. Dodd's preparing for another adventure. You should probably wait till Indio finishes that maid art. Indio Pindio has been awfully quiet lately. I assume he's still alive. Actually, Ragnarok, you already have Aya nudes. You paid for those, or you helped. Well, no, you didn't pay. I don't think you paid for them, but you sparked people to donate for it, if I remember right. It was achieved. We must AI generate Kibs and his community. Okay, you can go ahead and do that. In your own spare time, sudden cringing. He's just trying. You're trying a little too hard. You gotta get good. You being a little plastic box isn't helping. Oh, a tragedy, to be certain, but a welcome tragedy. But when it comes to everything else, like we're making a groundbreaking amount of progress on our stuff, which is always good. Always wonderful. Is there other things I can show the bucketfish? To relieve the fish, to make the fish happy? I'm going to be going to the grocery store in a bit. By the way, this is a Q&A too, so if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I might delay the Company Hero stream because I do need to go to the grocery store today because I'm out of bread. Yes, I am out of bread. Which I can't make any sandwiches without bread, and I think the cheese is probably time to hurry up and eat what's left of that too. Close it all. I hit myself in the shin right now. But yeah, fucking A. Dumb kib. I bought 2 Red Baron pizzas for this week's 8K subscriber special drunk stream that we're gonna be doing. Because I'm gonna figure that, you know, I'm gonna get drunk for chat. Kib, any future game genres you want to work on in the future? Yes. I would love to do a strategy game set in the Terrestrian timeline. I would also like to do a actual action game as well. One game idea I would love to tackle as well in the Terrestrian timeline or the Mixers setting. I mean, honestly, to be honest, a real-time strategy game, first-person shooter, with like sort of squad managing tactics and stuff like that, sort of like on like Republic Commando. Obviously the RPG stuff. I would like to also do like a grand strategy game, but have like RTS level battles in it. So of that nature. I need to move some stuff. There we go. Look at a Tully Fist. I love how this is a character that I wrote so much lore for, and like he's such a badass, and like I can't get over the fact that like he looks so just basic. It's funny. Some old dude with a beard with a sword. And we talk about a Tully's Fist at the Battle of his stand at the Battle of Broken Storms. Him holding the temple, defending the sick, the dying, and the wounded, and the battle. Like, he's such a cool character. But when you think about it, like, he's just this barefoot old man, old as hell. But yeah, no, like, there's tons of games I would love to work on. Like, I want to work on a sort of tactical shooter game at some point. Like, that's one thing I want to do. But very similar to the lines of Republic Commando with like heavily scripted things. RPGs like the Legend of Terrestria stuff, the Mixers project as a whole. A real-time strategy game with base building is something I would love to do. A game similar on the levels of Total War I'd also like to do. And I'd like to do some other stuff too, but those are like the big ones that I can think of. Those will be very difficult to develop, mostly because our team doesn't have any experience developing anything outside of, well, the first game we're working on, which is Legend of Terrestria, which is the RPG. If we can build up the resources and capital from the video game and the success of the video game, and after we polish it up as super nice, in the future, we can then invest in basically training, basically the same embarkment process that Terrestria had, but with full time would be beneficial. Where the team is basically trained up in terms of skill to develop games for more genres. Did he escape Antony? Oh, Tully is in Terrestria. I don't know who that is. References of other media is not going to work for Kib. Mostly because I don't know half the stuff chat talks about. Oh, will some of the professional fan art be in the art book upon game release? The art book itself is going to be fairly hard to produce, mostly because we're going to need to get it organized. It's going to be a hardcover book, and it'll be part of the collector's stuff. That's weird. That I heard something. But yeah, the collector box is going to be big. It's going to be a big cardboard box with little flaps fold out with the diorama. It'll be nice, like an old classic game. How many copies sold would be a success? I don't know. The thing is, I've been so busy working on this game that I'm actually at the point now where it's like, well, as long as we can reach the status quo every week, if we fill up that bar every week, that's good enough. We can keep developing games indefinitely. Yeah, that's kind of it. Jim Van Ness, have you watched What I Hate About Your Game Pitch? No. I also don't have any interest in watching it, but you can send it to me if you really want. I might look at it when I get some spare time. I'm not pitching anything here, though. Mostly because I don't need to pitch. All I need to do is just show updates and progress. But, that is a useful video to have if you actually need to pitch an idea to somebody. Well, not that video, but learning how to pitch an idea. This is actually, okay, so you know what? That's raised an interesting question, and this is for the other indie devs, because our community is actually made up of several other people working on their own projects, and this is something I kind of want to talk about a little bit, because I know that other people have this problem. When you pitch your idea, you should try to sound excited about it. I'm telling you, I'm not going to name names, but there was somebody who wanted to pitch their idea for their project for me. That was quite a while ago. And if you sound bored, then I'm bored. Don't do that. It's so I've got this idea for this setting, and they're gonna do stuff, and it's okay, can you be a little bit more excited about stuff? Can you be a little? Because you certainly don't sound excited about stuff. You sound like you're bored. You sound like you're bored. Yeah, I guess the alternative is what you're doing, which is developing an online personality and then doing crowdfunding. My problem is my personality sucks. That's something you can actually improve, by the way. Anything, one thing I want to tell everyone is you can improve pretty much anything. You want to learn how to draw, Jim? Actually, your name's not Jim. You're a fan of Jim. I don't know who Jim is, but good to know. Jim is probably happy. Talking to a publisher might be different. Yes, that is okay. So yeah, if you're talking about that, yes, you need to learn how to pitch an idea. Definitely. If you're trying to pitch an idea to an investor or a publisher, you're gonna need to learn how to do the, what do you call it, the 50-minute elevator pitch, so to speak, to pitch an idea. And you're going to want to rehearse and practice it. You're also going to practice it with friends, and basically not just friends, but also family members and relatives who might be less interested, and maybe even random people. Not the pitch itself, the idea. You don't want to pitch the actual idea to randoms, by the way, without having signed an NDA. But you want to practice pitching ideas as a whole. Honestly, the big thing that improved my ability... Actually, no, I feel like I might be lying if I say this, but I was I'm going to pretend. I'm going to pretend this is true, okay? I feel like that working at Burger King as a part-timer, I learned a lot and improved in how to interact with random people. Even though I was always naturally very good with people to begin with. Let's pretend that it was Burger King related. But I'm pretty sure I feel like I refined my skills with interacting with people because of being a... the guy on front counter, the guy on the drive-through, dealing with people, being the people guy, the guy that talks to people. Learning how to deal with customers who are very upset, learning how to alleviate things and concerns. That kind of experience is very good. It's a what do you call it, a stepping stone job. It's a job you should get as a part-timer when you're in high school, because you can learn some valuable skills from just doing it. You learn basic team working skills, you learn basic skills on how to talk to people and, work with people. Basic. It's not a complicated job, but you learn basic skills. And basic skills honestly give you a foot in the door at, learning a lot more stuff. I'll get an AI to draw me a gym. You can technically get an AI to do it, but I honestly, okay, so AIs are cool. Okay, but I still believe in the improvement of the self and the ability to work on yourself. And the reason why you should draw, I'm saying something that I don't have time to do anymore, I wish I did, is drawing is very cathartic. Honestly, watch one of those Bob Ross painting tutorials. And the reason why I suggest that is because Robert, actually, our composer, Robert Renato, watched one of those painting tutorials from Bob Ross, and actually was able to literally help us apply his skill early in the morning at helping work on concept art for cityscapes and stuff. Unironically. those Bob Ross painting tutorials, like, yeah, they're, you know, the paint, we've even released them. They're actually on the Reddit. If you scroll down, you can see them. The city of Rivera, the city of Helios and Amon, all those cities were painted by Robert. Granted, I was, you know, obviously there telling the lore of the cities and then making sure that it matched, like, where the walls were, the siege walls on the outside of the ruins of Amon that are still standing to this day. And that was very important. What's up, Kibs? Howdy, chat. Welcome to Stream, Pickle Father. Still waiting for the parasite model. I need Horrors of the Sea in my hand. I know the parasite's coming. The Garukara next. Maybe I'll poke Carlos about October. We can produce one of the parasites from Terrestria. The parasites are fucking... I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I worked on the lore, and I had a really good time working on the lore. I had a horrific nightmare, which sparked my work on them, actually. The nightmare actually came from, I think, barotrauma. I don't remember. Barotrauma and some other scary movie, I think, like I watched not that long ago, or game. And like, it was like a collage of those two things, but like it was different. And then when I woke up, I immediately got to writing. It's sort of like the skin spiders. Like the skin spiders were the same thing. Ugh, gross. I fucking hate those things. They're in Vasti. Same inspiration. Was laying in bed and had a very gross idea and then couldn't sleep because I disturbed myself in my own thoughts. And got to write it in. I hate the skin spiders so much. They're slightly inspired by the lanky crabs of the Mariam Ocean. Parasite's generic name. Oh, don't worry. They're not generic. Also, remember, when it comes to naming, and this is for creative types, because you know George's Rex gave criticism there. That is a valid criticism. It's not a super interesting name, is it? Parasites. Like, maybe we'll give them a different name later. But also, one thing I will say is also don't get too bent out of shape as a developer. Mostly because think about other settings names. All right. Let's think of a setting, Star Wars. You know exactly what it is. The moment I said it, you probably pictured Darth Vader, or like an AT-AT, or like a Death Star, or some iconic piece of the media from that the setting. A video game, a comic perhaps, a story, a song, John Williams music even. The thing is, a word can be given meaning, regardless of it, if you make something so profoundly good. So don't get too worried about names and stuff like that. It's like we have a kingdom called Ithrin, right? Ithrin. There's Tivoni, Ruthmir, Salangar, and then there's Ananvale, and then there is Arnor. Arnor, is A-R-A-N-O-R, I think? Aranor, if I remember right. I don't remember 100%. I can't remember the kingdom's lore too well. That's between the three mountains, and there's a valley lake, and at the center there's a little thingy-majiggy. There's a lake that rests there, and the lake then runs south, and it leads, eventually that river leads to the great river of Osos. I remember that much about the geography of the topography of Astria. But the name Aranor is similar to another setting in Lord of the Rings where there is the ancient kingdom of Arnor. Is it Arnor or is it Arnor? You know what I'm thinking of. There's a nation with the same name, and it's already in existence in media. Already. In another media. And not just in that media, but in other fantasy settings. The one thing you need to remember as a creative type, every name of something has been used already or might be used. Don't get too worried and too caught up on names. I know it can be hard. Like, it is often hard. There comes a time when you should definitely change a name, but don't get too distracted by that. It can be very blinding when you're making stuff and when you're writing lore or when you're doing something. They'd be like, oh, this is like that name, or oh, that's like that name. Like, okay, you know, yes, it's similar, but what is the kingdom of Aranor in Terrestria, and what is the kingdom of Arnor? Or Arnor? Fuck, my pronunciation is, I'm suffering today. What is the difference between them and like Lord of the Rings? And are they similar? And is it too similar? Like, is it the point where it's like they're exactly the same? Well, actually, the Aranor was actually a mistake, if I remember, typo, because it was like Aranor, like, oops, like, it's like and I was like, fuck. But then I realized that it was similar to Arnor, and I was like, whatever. But I know that it bothers some people when it comes to naming things in settings. Try not to get too bent out of shape. Like, the ancient kingdom of Aranor in fucking Lord of the Rings is really cool. The kingdom of Aranor in our setting is... they're neat. I don't think they're as cool as Aranor, sadly. It's kind of hard to compare, because the kingdom of Aranor is actually really awesome. Or Arnor, god damn it. God damn it. I'm struggling here. But the reason why I point out this thing in my setting and why it's similar to other settings is because I'm showing you that I'm not too bothered by the fact that, yeah, it's similar. It's similar, and it's how it's like the name comes off. Don't get bent out of shape if you're working on your setting and, you know, there's a name that's super similar. Okay? It's not a super big deal. As long as you're not calling your setting like Star Wars or using, like, you know, actual copyrighted things like droids, you'll be fine. The fact that droids is copyrighted is actually just triggers the shit out of me, because it shouldn't be, by the way. Oh, that's very cold. I accidentally spilled a little Coca-Cola on myself. Oh, it's cold. It's sticky. Crap. Crap. It was, oh no. Okay, well, it's, I think it's fine. It was only a little bit. It's just very cold. I thought it was everywhere. I got concerned. Thank God. This is why you pay attention. You don't fucking try to talk when you're taking a sip. It's just all over the place. My super original quick. Yes, I know, but the reason why I do this is because there will come a point that when somebody down the road is going to be like, Arnor, yeah, it's quite like Arnor. It's like, oh yeah, it is, like, name-wise, but they're very different. Don't get bent out of shape as a creator. This is more so me trying to help other creative types in here basically learn from what I've learned. Just don't get too bent out about it. Like, honestly, because the thing is, every name or sound has been used. There's only so many sounds we can produce, and a lot of them have been used already. And so yours will be unique no matter what, because how you use it and how it's executed will always be unique. Android's just short for Android, right? Yeah, basically. Well, sort of. Yeah, kind of a little bit, maybe. So what do you mean, bit, maybe? Just reading through chat. Chad Adversity was going through naming issues some time ago. He really wants to name his universe All-Star, which makes people think of Shrek to his annoyance. Well, he shouldn't get too bent out of it. All-Star is a name, okay? And All-Star is a name that people think you're an all-star, you know, from Shrek, because it's the first thing that comes to their mind. How does that change in time? Time. And honestly, just because people think you're an all-star and they think of Shrek when they think of, you know, a setting, that's not necessarily a negative thing either. Shrek is actually a really good piece of media, and memes should not be something creatives fear. For some reason, there's a lot of creatives that get outwardly aggressive or hostile. Like Celeste in our setting is often referred to as a genocidal maniac. She's like a 12-year-old little girl. Like, I haven't showed much about Celeste, and already chat's like, she's evil, she's like a terrible, like, monster. And how they guessed that is beyond me. Like, those lucky shits. But, like, these aren't things you should be afraid of. If people make memes of your characters, it's generally positive. It's because they like it. And you should be thankful, actually. You should be happy. Because memes are not a bad thing. People make memes about Terrestria setting. That's awesome. I love Star Wars, and there's so many Star Wars memes. It's not even funny. Memes are not bad. They're not always bad. I mean, they can have bad connotations, but just because somebody doesn't like your setting, or just because somebody memes on it or dabs on it, okay, big deal. Who cares? It's all in good humor. It's not like they're hurting you. That is actually so old that he was in his 20s during the Shrek era. My god, dinosaur. Basically a corpse. He's as old as Sargon. Basically prehistoric. Fucking primordial being. Primordial. Celeste, yes. Carlito! He just says yes. She's the new Führer. See what I mean? Like, chat, I swear to God. If you keep this up, we might release like a free LC for the game when it's long after it's gone, where Celeste is just in a Führer outfit. Somebody once told me the world was gonna woe me. Yes. But yeah, I take it, is he getting really bent out over it? Well, somebody should probably tell him to not get so bent out of it. Because honestly, there's only two things that happen if you get bent out of shape. As a creative, this is important. This is very important advice I'm going to impart upon you. As a creative type, if people see blood in the water who don't like you, what are they going to do? You know what they're going to do. They're going to keep digging. You're feeding them. The problem is everyone I know loves to feed trolls, and content creators are some of the worst people. Well, we are. Like, we are genuinely awful human beings. Like, genuinely. Like, most of us should be looked at with scorn and hated. At least from my experiences of meeting other people who do the same thing I do. We need to be burning in hell, but that's besides the point. There's just so many liars. But either way, you gotta remember, fellow content creators, just don't have a massive narcissistic ego. It's not that hard. Teach your audience to belittle you and make fun of you. Now you'll just fucking want to strangle them anytime you see them. And don't double down all the time. Like, I know a certain Canadian who does that. Like, all you're gonna do is push people away. The thing is, not everyone's going to agree on everything. My audience isn't going to agree with me on everything. In fact, they don't often agree with me with many things. And you know what? That's fine. I'm probably wrong on most of those things anyways. All I know is that I'm doing my best, and sometimes my best just simply isn't good enough. And you know what? That's okay. Just don't worry about it. That's the problem with a lot of content creators that they need to learn. That's one of the reasons why I quit being a content creator, because a little bit of trivia about Kibs for those that don't know. I quit YouTube and had zero intention of ever coming back. Originally, I used to do live action skits that were very much inspired by Angry Video Game Nerd, because I loved the idea of like these skits that were so like comfy and cool, and I wanted to do them with my friends, and then we're gonna start this channel called the Bickering Bunch, except I was the only one that did them, and I was sad about that. But I eventually started getting a following after a while, and people started to subscribe and started hanging out, and I was like, yay, I'm finally finding success. And I made a Discord server community, and when Discord was created, and called the Astrian Republic, and it was cool for a while. But narcissism and ego started to steep in, and it wasn't necessarily myself, because but it was my ignorance. It was my ignorance about narcissism and ego. I didn't notice and I didn't understand that people were putting me on a pedestal, and they were thinking I was something greater than what I was. I'm just a person who is not very smart, not very good at math, and I do the best I can, and you know, sometimes I just don't quite do it, and you know, these things happen, but I try as hard as I can to do the best I can. But the issue is that a lot of people will start to manipulate you, even if you're a content creator, and use you for their own ends and stuff of that nature, and to basically move up to the social strata. And so what happened in the Astrian Public Discord was actually a series of just really cringy, like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like, I don't know, like, just like dick sucking, basically, of just yes men, and it just got so insufferably unbearable. That, coupled with several other things that I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It was just too annoying. And I just like, you know what, I have a job, I don't need to worry about this, like, fuck this, I'm gonna leave. And so I deleted the server, punted everyone out of it, cut off all connections with them. That was when I met Arch, by the way. And Arch was the one person I knew. He's got an ego. He's a big YouTuber. He's also, you know, pretty loaded. But he may have an ego, but he's a good guy. And he knows that he has an ego, and he knows that he tries to wind that back. He was one of the few people I've ever met as a content creator that actually had a soul. It's true. Like, Arch is actually a pretty fucking cool dude. Like, don't tell him I said that, though, because we can't get his ego up. We gotta make sure we keep him level. So you need to bonk him occasionally. Because ego and narcissism is not something that everyone has when they start YouTube. It's slow, it's insidious, and it starts small and it starts honest and earnest. Because people giving genuine praise for good work will lead to it. It is a slippery slope, and you need to be mindful of it. As a content creator, it is a disease. You got to try to avoid it as much as possible. There's also the opposite side of that. The opposite side of ego and narcissism, there is the other stuff, where self-deprecation, or to the other point where it's like it's becoming toxic in the other direction. Remember, it's a sphere. You don't want to drift too far to the edge. You want to stay in the middle, balanced. Ugh, pokey goalie. Very sody poppy. But yeah, so that's basically like, I met Arch, I left YouTube, and Arch, I was like, you know what, Arch and I are good friends. Like, I'm one of his oldest friends. He forgets this. And I wanted to go on the record that I'm annoyed that he forgets this. He thinks that he met Sargon and V now because he's a boomer. Oh, I gotta read a super. I'm gonna go on a tangent. You know, to say, good advice. Your streams are great to write to, by the way. Well, thank you, Rat Wyvern. Or Warren, Pub. I can't read. I can't read. Not wearing my glasses. But thank you for your generous donation. Appreciate the support. And I'm very glad that we are something that helped for your writing. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I was going to make fun of Arch. No, I was going to attack him. I was going to stab him in the back. What was I doing? Check, can you remind me? Can you remind? Oh, yeah. So Barch is an old man, and he forgets things, okay? I know that he was friends with Nerfy the longest, and then he was he's friends with All Dogs the longest, then Nerfy. Then there's Kibs. Kibs was the third one. Then he met Sargon and V. Because I met him in like 2015 and early into there. And he's just memory hold this whole thing. And it bothers me because he's like, oh, you're not my oldest friend. It's like, what the? I'm gonna just grab his little blonde neck and strangle him. I will never forget, because he was one of the reasons why I quit YouTube. Not because of him, but necessarily due to the fact that I was like, wow, there are decent people. I don't want to be on YouTube anymore. Because all the people I knew at the time, I known a person named Sotek and other people, and they made content, and they were very terrible people. They said horrific things, and I just didn't want to be associated with that shit anymore. So I just left YouTube. And then I came back because Arch actually suggested I come back. It was actually under his advice that I actually came back to YouTube. And his advice is the only reason why we're still making the game we're making. Because the anti-piracy job I have isn't around anymore. Well, it is. But sadly, we're being replaced with AIs that are very ineffective, and that are not only ineffective, but the problem that you see in the copyright abuse scene, it's related. You know how copyright abuse is getting worse and worse as time goes on? Well, just remember that there were anti-piracy agents and agencies out there that weren't abusing copyright. Unfortunately, the copyright abusers, well, they silence opposition as well. So they made it, and the ones that didn't, the ones that were honest, didn't. That's why Kibs is out of a job. That's what I get for being too good at my job, and that's also what I get for being too efficient. Should have fucking slacked is what I should have done. Oh well. But yeah, so that's where that went. Out the window. Oh, well. But yeah, so then I lost my job, and then I became a YouTuber full-time. And thanks to help from Artemis, he funded this whole avatar thing, which I was originally against, mind you. But I begrudgingly came to accept it because I was wrong, and Artemis was right about that. So was Barch about coming back to YouTube. Like I said, like, you know, there's been things we've been right about, things we've been wrong about. It was good. I think I made the right decision getting out of YouTube when I did, because I needed a break from it. It was toxic, and it was just not a healthy atmosphere for me. And then I rebuilt the community from the ground up the second time. I rebuilt it up with everything I had learned. And I built a community where I'm like, no, I want to pull from the community. I want the community to be as much my family as my own flesh and blood. Like, and I'm going to build this community to be my home. It's my home. And that's why I recruit the dev team members from the community. That's why I recruit the Bickering Bunch guests like Reguline, Bubbles, Fairman, Hanse. They're all from the community. The entire thing is built around the community. The community became the soul and the linchpin to everything. It is thanks to the community that we have the resources we have to develop the game we want to make. The community is built by the game, and it's also back vice versa. It's all tethered together in its own sphere, and how I perceive things is now in spheres. Like I'm on my sphere arc, and I've been on there ever since coming back to YouTube. I see the world in a sphere, in the sense that I see myself at the center of my own personal sphere, and everyone is the center of their own personal sphere. And everything around your sphere is the things you cherish and hold dear. And as you go further and further out of that sphere, there are things that, more like, casual acquaintances and further out, until they're far off and you can't even see them anymore. And that is how I perceive things. And it's because of how I perceive the world through that way that I'm able to orientate myself better on YouTube, through seeing in spheres. Because it's like, okay, I can collaborate with a certain amount of people and that'll grow my channel. But if I over collaborate, it'll shrink my channel because we'll lose subs by doing that. And also take this advice to heart for those that do content creation as well. You need to apply the same logic to yourself. Over collaboration, you might try to help a lot of people, but if you try to help a lot of people, you'll end up hurting yourself and you'll hurt everyone around you. Help yourself first, then help others. You can't help anyone if you can't help yourself. And that's something I had to learn. Because I made mistakes. And everything I made along the way was filled with mistakes. Mr. Bob7370 donates 11 Uzaki Buckies to say, remember, Kibs, if you do 8 hours of work in 4 hours, you will only get 4 hours a month. Be lazy and go at your own pace. That's true. Today, we've already made, I think, the daily quota, which is good. Any bit of donation we make works towards the next part of the quota, which is good. As long as I can build up a treasury for our dev team, that's good. Everyone can remain fed. Even if we have a rough month, like, no worries, guys. You got, burgers are on the way. Garboy donates 50. Donkey Kong to say, yes, I started to pay you after you lost your job. Looking at sad Aerith in a box. The road. And I just had to help. Yes, Garboy, your support is much appreciated. Honestly, all of your support. Even if you don't donate, by the way. It doesn't, the donations do matter. I was like, it doesn't matter that much. Kibs, you're getting far ahead of yourself there. You'd be in a box if that was the case. But all support is appreciated. Not everyone can donate, and the economic times are tough, and you shouldn't feel like you should have to. But the thing is, just by being here, you're already supporting. By choosing to watch my streams over all the other content on the internet. You chose me above all else, and I appreciate that. You chose my stuff. You chose our stuff. Turns communist. Our stuff. But you know what I mean. Like the fact that you choose me over other streamers and other content, or of watching a movie or TV show, the fact that you choose that, I'm grateful for. So thank you for that. And that is something that I think a lot of content creators maybe don't necessarily know how to say, but I know that they also are probably thinking it as well. Money always matters. It does. Anyone that tells you otherwise is fucking lying. Otherwise, you'll starve to death. Money is important, especially if you want big dreams or big projects to be realized. I want to make things and I want to make people smile. And the biggest thing I want, because I'm greedy in my own right, the biggest thing I want is I want to build my own setting and my own IP. I was always envious of George Lucas and like the setting he had created as a child. As a child, I was like, wow, this is so fantastical and magical. There's like games, media made, and like communities built up around this. How can I have that? I want that. I want my own franchise and setting. I want my own communities built up around it. I want like other studios producing games in my setting. I want it to expand. I want writers and authors at some point, when I'm further down the road and establish the setting, to start writing and expanding the setting. I want people to participate in it. I want it to grow and thrive and flourish. And I also, most importantly, want it gatekept from those that would twist it for greed, from those that would warp it into things that it's not. And my biggest concern is longevity is when I'm gone and we pass this torch on to the future generations, what will we have left for them? And how can we guarantee, or what can we do to help ensure that future generations can enjoy the labors that we're building now? We need to also think for the future as well. We can't be self-centered in the now as well. We have to worry about future generations because the project is designed to be enjoyed for a long, long time, even after Kib is gone. And so I need to find a way to preserve it so that future generations can enjoy it, make things for it, have fun with it, profit from it, and have a fun time. That is the most important thing. And that is the most difficult thing to figure out. Jano Sikic stories 25 PL and say hug the Kib, fluff the Kib. Oh, don't know about that. Head pat the Kib, feed the Kib, sign Kib up for gladiatorial fights, learn to make art to gift to Kib. That's true. Learn to draw fan art. I love fan art. It inspires the team. Like, honestly, team morale is an important part. As the director, it's my job to make sure the team is happy, healthy, and well taken care of. If there's problems, it's my job to raise funds to help figure those problems out. If they need funding to be solved, that is. But another thing is, fan art and support from you guys is a huge motivator. This is something we haven't talked about yet, but honestly, it is thanks to your support. Just like even the simple emoji reactions to like the art posts, like a thumbs up, like the artists read that, they see that, and it warms their hearts and it gives them hope. Because even when we're struggling through the hard times and the hard months, it's been thanks to the fact that you guys have been supportive. You leave nice comments, you leave funny comments with memes, you do all sorts of things, you dab on stuff. You genuinely bring a smile to the whole team's face. It is actually thanks to you guys that we've been able to continue this journey. And it's also thanks to you guys that you've been able to, when one of our artists have felt bad, I'm not going to say about what or who or when, but there was a time which somebody was, going through some stuff. And it was actually thanks to the audience that turned around. It was thanks to you guys that became possible again. And that is something important to say, because it is something we need to remember, that we built this community and this whole thing around this whole idea. That's what's so unique about it. I doubt what I draw raises morale. Not necessarily, Giggles. That's entirely false. The art you drew of Celeste being head patted by Rhea warmed Sala's heart one morning when he was feeling groggy. Because remember, Sala's from a country in which they don't have what we have. They don't have, it's not a republic, it's a dictatorship. So sometimes things can be a little gloomy over there. Regardless, it also brings laughs. As cursed as that fucking fan art is sometimes, cursed art is still good art. I will never, ever say otherwise. Even the cursed fucking albine art. Damn, chat, degenerate. Hugo Fuki donates €5. Say, it was you, Artemis, suffer in furry hell. Avatar furry cringe. Hashtag Bree Kibs fun. Squeak Robin, spend on whatever you need. Thank you for the generous donation, but I will spend it on what it's allocated for. So we have a budget thing, right? And the budget thing is basically planned for every week. That's what the quota bars are for, and you already are doing a fantastic job this week. In fact, this is going to be another stellar week, I can already tell. And you might get what you might get more rewards. We are also slated for another 12-hour marathon stream this week because you guys did well in over-exceeding our goals last week. So another 12-hour marathon is coming. I am sorry about last week's because I had to take a break to go to get a burger. Like, that was my bad. I dropped the ball, and I will do better this time because I just didn't properly prepare food. I have no food, basically. Well, no, I do. I have like 2 frozen pizzas, but I do not. Those are for the drunk stream. I can't touch those. Those are for that. So I'm going to have to go to the grocery store today. How large is our dev team? It's about 16 or 17 people if you include the voice actresses. Bear in mind that the voice actresses only work on commission, and some people only work on commission. Only some of the dev team is actively paid, because we don't make that much money, sadly. Oh man, if we could fully fund, if the project could be fully funded and we could exceed status quo goals to the point where I could raise the amount of work hours for people, that would probably be amazing. But that would be something that I don't think we're there yet to do that. So for now, we're building up a stockpile treasury for when there's going to be bad months, because I'm always going to assume that there's going to be bad months in the future. That way, no one has to worry about going hungry. Nobody's going hungry under my watch. Also, chat's watch, technically. Did you have to get a business license? No. Why would I get a business license? I'm a kib. I am the business. Technically speaking, there is only one technically person employed at Battle Damage Studios. It's me, actually. Oh yeah, I pay that stuff. But I'm the only person at Battle Damage Studios, believe it or not. There's technically 14 or 17 people. But guess what? They're private contractors. Rubs hands together. Kibs found ways. The thing donates $5. Say, I have been going through a lot of things recently, and spending time in here has made it hurt less. Thank you, Kibs. And chat/Discord. Oh, I'm sorry to hear the thing, man. Don't you worry about it. Remember that things always get better. I, too, have dealt with some horrific things, and well, maybe not. I don't know actually what you're going through, but I went through a rough spot in 2012 after high school because everyone was going off to do things and my friend group was slowly dissolving. And it was sad to see because like I miss them still, but I hope that they're all doing well. But one thing is that as the friend group dissolved, I had a falling out with people I wish I didn't have. And it scarred me in a way that I don't think will ever be truly ever healed in that sense. But I try to, what's the word? Move on past that. Like it wasn't 2012, it was 2013, it was graduation year. And I hit a rough spot for about 2 years, or about a year or so, because 2013, 14 were rough. But I got through it. And the most important thing to remember is that no matter how shitty things get, things will get better. They always do. We have ups and downs in life. Life is not just a straight upwards, hill thing. You're going to have a couple good months and you're going to have a bad month here and there. And remember that there will always be another month, and it's always worth it to go to that next month. Have you considered the Star System monetization route, Kibbo? I genuinely don't want to scam our audience or anything like that. So no, I don't think I want to do anything where I take anything from our audience. I'm grateful for the donations. As long as we can meet the status quo and keep funding going and development going, I think that is the most important thing. But the reason why I made Terrestria At War free was to actually give back to you guys for all the support you've done for us. For the dev team, from the bottom of all of our hearts, we're grateful to have you guys here. And honestly, the fact that we made our status quos and we're able to keep our team together and keep our family together, so to speak, and keep working on the game, we're grateful more than anything else. And so instead of charging for the tabletop stuff, we figured that the tabletop stuff should be our gift to you. Let's see. You should still consider becoming an LLC. Oh yes, that is something definitely. Well, LLC was always the thing because limited liability corporation. It also offers legal protection because in case we make something and somebody is like, I'm gonna sue you because I made a thing and I broke it. It's like, well, it's not really my fault you broke it. It's not really my fault. It's kind of your fault. It's kind of your. Yes, you do need a legal person to even form your company. I think you could probably use LegalZoom as well. Yep. But I've got the groundwork and all the foundational stuff taken care of for that already. Coming to he misses Afghanistan. All right. He's like, nah, send him back in. I spend the most money on alcohol. Alcohol feels like a waste of money. You could spend it on Kib instead. You could spend it. Oh, god damn it. Here's a bit to the Feeding Slaves Fund. Thank you for the donation, Jaeger Ants. Very generous. But yes, the little donations do help because, again, they add up. That's the one thing I think that I think is also underappreciated. Like, yeah, sure, it's like only like €5 or $1 here and there, right? But every penny adds up. And slowly, that amount of pennies fills a piggy bank. And that piggy bank fills another piggy bank. It's slightly bigger than the other piggy bank. And eventually, you start generating enough revenue because people are all donating little bits here and there that you're able to move mountains. And that's how these things are getting made. It's because donation after donation, dollar after dollar, penny after penny, is building up into something huge until it becomes an avalanche. I mean, honestly, if you're using drugs and you got a drug problem, you should probably, instead of spend your money on weed, you should probably spend it on me. I will cure you. And then once you're cured, you don't need to spend a cent on me anymore. You're welcome. You're welcome. Fund my dream for a little bit. And then after that, you're cured. Once you don't have the drug problem and you get the catharticism from building an empire, because that's what you're doing. This stuff you see before you, every time you donate, every time you click on my stream, every time you hit a like button, is helping to create this. It's helping to create that. All of this, the music, the sound, the singing, all of it, every single penny. Oh, I think my headphone's done. I was like, I think it plays audio. Every one of these things you see is because of every penny adding up. All of this. The logo even. It only continues. I don't think that track actually has ever been released yet. It's a good one. There's so many tracks from our game that haven't been released yet. And like work in progress tracks that are fucking amazing. Like the boss battle music is so cool. Can't wait till you guys hear it. Or the bath song, which is actually really good. Hi, I'll donate £5. Say one way to get a lot of money for the game is to open an OnlyFan using your avatar. I can see Arch giving you money as he shouts, "I'm breeding Kibs." If I made had the a nude version of this model, I don't think YouTube would be happy about that. It'd also be weird. The more small donations, the more situational sass you can give Kibs. Hashtag sock fund. That's true. Yes, son of a bitch. It's so cool to be building something new. And without the taint of all the fucking problems of publishers and the problems with the modern industry. None of the corruption, but all of the purity. That's what truly gives it soul. Catfish is helping a catboy. Alright, when you word it like that, that just makes me sad. How do you pay employees if they're not on payroll? Well, I don't. I'm kidding. He's like, what? His eyes probably fucking eyebrows shot up to the top of his forehead. I don't have any employees, but I do pay people for commission time. Or I commissioned them time. It's like, okay, I want like 100 hours of work. I'm commissioning you for this slotted amount of time. Or I'm commissioning a piece of artwork, and I commission this piece. Everything is done on commission. There are no employees inside Battle Damage Studios, technically. Mostly because we can't actually do that. We can't afford to do that. We don't have that funding yet. Artist pay. And then just set up feet fund. Fuck's sake, chat. If you do that, I'm gonna like not clip my toenails for like a month and like fucking just make you vomit just out of spite. Technically, private contractors aren't employees for some companies. It's basically one big company buying from another. Instead of selling your to a publisher, you're selling your soul to your audience. Yeah, basically. Yeah, we're making good progress. But yeah, that's how Battle Damage Studios operate. So the studio is like it's an idea more than anything else. It has principles, and we adhere to the principles listed in the studio's principles and guidelines. But besides its core philosophy, like it's really simple. It's like, make fun games, don't imbue like politics or contemporary bullshit into this. This is a setting about escapism. We stand above everyone else because we're not here to preach to you. We're here to make something fun for you to escape to. It's our job to entertain you and bring happiness back, and create a setting in a world to immerse yourself in when, you know, you need to immerse yourself and escape a little. That is what we're building. That is why we stand above. Just give Chatfish something to gnaw on. How would you feel if you did that with your feetsies, then got told by a community member they got off on it? Well, I already know that people fap to Aerith quite a bit, so you kind of just sort of, you know, you're like, oh, you know, well, I can see how, I suppose. Aerith is a cute design. I designed the original design. I understand. You're like, wait, kid, what? Like, don't worry about it, brother. Brother. If people fap to characters, that is the highest, as awful and weird as that sounds, that is the highest form of flattery. But weird. You don't need to tell me, though. You don't need to. Degenerates. That's another $6 towards Kib feet pics. I don't know about that, George. I don't know. Chat's just weirded out now. Like, the bath song is gonna be so good. Oh God, Robert did a great job, by the way. So Robert gets huge kudos. The initial language foundation for the Astrian tongue was worked on by me, Kib, and the foundational setting of how it would be laid was mostly on Kib. But Robertsky has picked up the torch when working on the song to actually start adding more words to the language. So the Astrian language is being built up so that the song has plenty to work with. Love those infantry models? Oh yeah, they look fucking awesome. But to be fair, Astrians are... They have endured so many wars. Like, they have learned. And against a lot of insurmountable odds these days. Considering what they're up against. The Astrian troops look fucking awesome. I do like the look of them. They turned out really good. I can't wait till we get to some of the other nations, besides like the Nefir and the Astrians. It's pretty cool. Until you get a back injury, then you have to spend it all on pain meds. We'll try not to do that. Ah, yes, I know. My pops is ex-military. He was in the Cold War and the Gulf, and he's got a lot of injuries. And that sucks. It sucks. Gunfox times $50. I do not. Okay. Well, thank you for your generous donation, Gunfox. Good thing that you put that in the front of that, though. But I'll make note of that. Chat's like, wait. It's like, I don't know. It's a Giga chat. It was asked not to be read out loud, so it shall not be. Glorious heavy armor. Mr. Bob 220 Nuzaki Bucks say DJ Wheat Wake Chatfish Bwang on a Quaos. Alright, chat. Yes. Yes, I think so. Okay. So yeah. How much? Alright, I'm asking you how much. I have to do the estimate in my head. Chat, would you fund right now? Do you think we can fund an animation for a donation? For besides EO with Celeste actually saying, and then we'll get the voice actor for Celeste to say it. Jana which wake you belong on a quick wows. Would you pay for that to be animated, chat? Would you pay for the voice work? How much would it be? The voice work. And the artwork, the animation work is not. And then we need a little bit for profit margin. What's was the last animation? I can't remember. I'm trying to like ballpark in my head. What did it cost to produce? Hold on, I need to open something up in the background. I think I've wrote it down what it was last time. Open this tab. Oh, that's lewd. That's when I open artist DMs, you know, sometimes there's stuff in there, goddamn. Jesus Christ. Sometimes I forget how degenerate this artist is. And I remember it's Albine. Then I remember it's Albine. Scrolling up is just a moment after moment of like, holy shit, dude. Holy shit. Okay, so about it probably would be more than that, but I think $160 to get it animated and voice acted. I think so. Not necessarily, Jim. It depends on the artist. It also depends on the workflow because artists work in different speeds. There's a couple of factors. There is no same price for any artist. For example, a Vietnamese artist, like if I give them $60 for a piece of art, I will get a beautiful painting that is very high end because $60 has a lot more buying power or purchase power in Vietnam than it does in Eastern Europe. $60 will get me a nice, really nice piece, a couple of concept art pieces, but it won't give me that much. If I go further west and pay $60, I'll get like a stick figure. Like Eastern Europeans and Southeast Asians, you get a lot more run for your money because they're a lot more affordable and your money to them is way more in value. Same for South America. That's why we have a lot of South American artists, Southeast Asian artists, and Eastern European artists. Because, well, I had a bad luck with Western artists where they're just very expensive, and that's not their fault. They need to make a living. But the other thing is, I had also a lot of bad luck with Western artists just scamming me all the time. And so I just got, well, slowly, the amount of artists I worked with would always be the Eastern Europeans and the Asians growing. And then the Westerners just slowly fading out. And that's kind of how that happened. It was gradual and slow. Because what? Kibs, I put 300 just to be safe. Yeah, we could. Why not put it into the game as an Easter egg? The gender which like you belong on a cross. Oh, that's easy Easter egg material, dude. I don't think you understand. So, you know what a click-on is? I call them click-ons. You know how if you played Warcraft 3 or StarCraft or some of the old RTSs or other turn-based strategy games where you click on characters, they'd say something like, affirmative, or like, sir, yes, sir, be happy to, you know, things like that. Well, they're called click-ons, and I can make as many as I want. I can make it. If you click on Rhea enough, she'll say something that one of my favorite lines, I'll spoil one, but the rest you'll have to see in the game. She's don't, oh, I can't even do it right. Don't touch me. Like she gets so fucking mad. Stop poking me. Me not that kind of orc. Yeah, the princesses do the same thing when you click on them. Well, not the same thing, but they do similar click-ons. I thought it was like a nice little touch. Kibs taking advantage of cheap foreign labor? Wrong. Kibs managed, and thanks to a certain member in chat, managed to actually give the little show friend a huge amount of cash for her region. Because I managed to raise a little bit of extra money, and so all the extra money was actually given as a bonus for her hard work. Good job, chat. She was very grateful for that, by the way. Sheldon Barfield donates $5 say, have my Google survey money before my service drops out here in the middle of nowhere. Sheldon, no. Is Celeste gonna explode if you click on her 100 times? Just a nuclear explosion crashes your game. Fucking deletes all your save data. That was my final Easter egg to chat. Have Celeste have a 1 in 1,000 chance of saying goblins are a blight on the world. Goblins. That doesn't even make sense. Aren't any goblins on Terrestria? Just like there are no orcs. I didn't want to do... Like, Tolkien is a master of what he did, but I didn't want to defame his work by using dwarves, orcs, or elves. We have races that might be similar, but they're not called that, and they culturally are quite different. The Gurukar, I think, are the closest thing we have to orcs. And they're not really orcs, but, you know. Ah, the Yokotaro special. Delete your save data. Yeah, that. Who do you think I learned it from? Yokotaro. Him and his love of deleting your save data. Have the Celeste say the Astrian equivalent of the N-word. Incredibly rare as a click-on. We'll see. We'll see. At first, it'll probably be about like 5 or 6 click-ons of the combat prototype. We'll see how many. But they might be combat click-ons. Until we can get the, what do you call it? The open world section done. Because combat click-ons will be situational for combat, but there might be some memey ones if you click on further. For now, we're going to focus on the basic combat voice lines and then implementation, expanding that for the flavor stuff, for the nice, you know, nice stuff. Once we get all the stuff ironed out and pretty. I guess it really depends on, I guess, how easy it is to implement. I was told by the programming team that click-ons will be pretty simple. In fact, they said that I think they told me that it was trivial, which is great because that means that they're not going to strangle me because I'm going to make them mad. I guess I'm going to make them. It was like that one time I forget what I asked for. I'm like, what if we do this in the game? And then I just look, programmer's silent. I'm like, oh no, they're mad. Oh no. Programming team might want to strangle Kib again. I remember when we talked about ray casting in Shadows, and like it was like, and nobody thought it was possible, and then Robin did it. Oh god, Robin might want to kill me one day, but that's besides the point. You did a good job. Yep. Kibs, there always could be a goblin race, but not named Gobberin. Not named Gobber. Also, I'd like to point out that Tolkien's work, orcs and goblins were used interchangeably. Mkoi, like Mkoi. What? How about the Gurkhas? She could deprecate them. Why the Gurkhas of all people? Oh, the most common weapon you'll see in armies is generally going to be the spear. Swords are often sidearms. You'll see that these pikemen actually have swords as sidearms. These heavy swordsmen have longer swords, but are more meant to get closer. Ooba boy. Those are sort of different themed heavy Astrians with different faceplates. Because faceplates are an option, by the way. Yep, because there's the pikemen. And you'll see they have swords on the sidearms. The officer pose. The officer's got the big floofy thing on his head, which distinguishes him. Yep, because those guys have faceplates, except for the tuba player. We'll call him tuba player. And these are the faceplate variants. The symbolic owl of Calestios. The bull's head of Torius. There's different elements of symbolism from their culture actually intermixed with their overall aesthetic and outfits. There's actually a lot of detail that went into these, by the way. The officer even has different signifying commendations on his chest, actually. That mean different things. You can actually see them right there on the officer. The officer for the pike unit. Remember, Kibs, they're no failure. Only selling out to Disney. Fuck no, dude. I'm not gonna sell this. This is literally like never something I'm going to sell. Like, this is like my passion project. You don't just sell your passion project. The one thing that always fucking upsets me and upsets me to the ends of time is like George Lucas selling Star Wars. Like, it's one of those things, like, I was like, God damn it, like, I want more Star Wars content. I was like, okay, well, you know, Disney will normally put out more stuff. That's before I fully awakened to the fact that Disney had become a monster. Because my last interpretation of what Disney was Disney was this company that generally made pretty good things, right? You know, all these cartoons. I didn't know about the story about the animation conflict inside their studio. I was like, Treasure Planet, you know, Atlantis, Lost Empire, you know, pretty good pieces of media. So my understanding was that it was going to be a pretty good thing. And they announced the Star Wars Legend things. I remember like, yes, finally, somebody's going to fix Star Wars lore, because my God, the Legends things needed to happen no matter what. Like, it was something that needed to happen because a clear sense of canon needed to be laid out. And then they decided to pretty much throw everything in the garbage. And I was like, what? What are you doing? What is happening? And then The Force Awakens unleashed, and I remember being so fucking upset. Like, so fucking unhinged about The Force Awakens. Like, it wasn't even funny. And I remember everyone being like, Kibs, The Force Awakens wasn't that bad. You're overreacting. And I was pointing out, like, this is the foundational proof of, like, all the bad things to come. And I got told I was overreacting. And then everything else happened. And then I was vindicated. But the worst part about being vindicated is I'm still not happy. Like, I didn't get any pleasure from being vindicated. I'm just more upset. I'm just more upset. I'm more angry than I am anything else. It's like, it's not like a razor fist, fuck you, I was right. It's like a fucking goddamn it. I didn't want to be right. Like, I would rather be wrong. Yes, Blizzard's last big thing they managed to push out before their thing, or in the middle of being bought out, was Wrath of the Lich King. It's also when, like, the entire thing started to go south. Cody says, from what I understand, Bob Iger basically forced Lucas to sell Disney Star Wars through some coercion and wrote about it in his book. I've not read the book yet, though, so I don't know the details. Huh. Well, whenever. Honestly, I don't really care about he said, she said until the dust settles. The thing is about that is that's where you get all those fucking, what I call them, parasites. I call a bunch of things parasites, but parasite content creators where they're like parasitic and like, this is gonna happen totally because my sources leaked this. And it's like, yeah, whatever, dude, I don't care. Like, when the dust settles, I'll figure out the truth. And I'm not gonna fearmonger. I'm not gonna fucking cling to these fucking people that are like fucking telling me that Kathleen Kennedy's gonna be fired any day, because she's not. This is just clear. This is nonsensical. Like, I know Kathleen Kennedy's terrible and she's done nothing but bad for Star Wars, but I'm not gonna fucking like buy into the hate, what do you call it, hate train, where you're so consumed by hate that you can't see what's true and what's false. I will wait for the dust to settle. Yeah, Sonic Nitro, that's when you notice too, The Force Awakens. Yeah, Force Awakens was the first thing. Honestly, the one bit of good I remember seeing was Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the movie, and the Clone Wars TV show. And while I didn't like a lot of things it did, it gave me hope at that point for new media. It just didn't happen. Never happened. Treasure Planet got me into terrible early 2000s music, still stuck in it. Treasure Planet, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, El Dorado, Titan AE. Like, these are all cartoons I cherished as a kid. The Star Wars micro series, Samurai Jack, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Kids Next Door, all good stuff. The problem with RTS is the pathfinding. Oh god, yes, pathfinding is always a nightmare. Make sure programmers focus on that a lot. Yeah, when we one day do a tackle on RTS, that's going to be a big thing. The thing about pathfinding, and I'm convinced about this because my programming team is actually very, very skilled. Like, I don't want to fucking, toot my own horn, but my programmers are actually real champs. I have total confidence they can achieve whatever I want them to, given time and patience. That's the one thing I know now as a director, is I think a lot of games often blame engines or blame other things for their issues, but the real issue is budget and time. If we want something in our game chat, we can get it. We can make it. There is no doubt in my mind it's achievable. The only issue is money and time. So long as we can fill our quotas, we can take our time to fulfill all our goals and make sure that everything runs to a T. Your little T for titties. God damn it, Chad. Well, that's the thing, Jim Fan. Maybe one day you will. The thing is, like, you may be an early program. Well, we can't even hire programmers right now anyways. I'll talk about the bottleneck issue in our studio right now. So the bottleneck issue is the issue that the team and you guys are aware of, at least whenever we inform you. It means it's the speed at which we can develop the game. The bottleneck cannot be fixed because the bottleneck right now is actually funding. God damn it. The other bottleneck is we can't expand any programmers, even volunteer-wise, because any additional programmers will actually only make it longer to develop things now. What we need now is to increase funding to increase programmer time. By increasing programmer time, we can then make more progress. Before we can worry about getting more programmers, we actually just need the programmers we have to work more. That's the real bottleneck right now. So the more time we get, the more progress we make. That is the bottleneck problem. And the bottleneck problem isn't necessarily like that big of a bottleneck. It's just the current bottleneck we've reached. Before, we had an artist problem where we just didn't have the proper artists for things we needed to get done. Now we've managed to achieve and fix that bottleneck. The next bottleneck we have is the money one, and I think that's the big one that's going to be stuck there for a while. What game are you developing and where can I check it out? It's called Mixer's Legend of Terrestria. These models here are not for the video game. They are for the tabletop and the digital tabletop, which is free and will be released for free as a bonus and will be constantly developed as we go forward. Mostly because I want I'm autistic. I kind of want every single nation on the map to have it, minors included. And I would also like to have eras eventually. But for now, we're going to focus on fixing up all the nations, getting mercenary companies ready, getting monster armies ready and stuff like that. And then we'll start expanding eras, because one era, the eras I would like to work my way towards eventually is the Victorian era for the setting. Because I have ideas. Funding for anything is always funding. Yeah, basically. It's the problem every studio has. Actually, currently we don't have too many programs. We have just the sweet spot. 3. Robin, who's tackled the renderer and the lighting system. Disco, who is very much a part-time programmer help, so only occasional help. But she tackles little problems that are also big problems, if that makes sense. They're little in terms of their complexity, but they're big in terms of their importance. Like, for example, user interface, tooltips, stuff like that. Big problems in terms of player interfacing. And then there's Tibbers. Tibbers is working on fundamental mechanics and stuff like that, and things. What's this? Phone call from who? Don't know that number. Probably a scam. There we go. Sorry. I had to block that because that was definitely a fake thingy. Oh, mercenaries. So mercenaries work in the way that they're recruitables. So when you play as a faction in the Terrestria At War tabletop, when building your armies, you can recruit mercenaries into your army composition. Now, your army composition, unless the developers of the tabletop stuff, I don't know what they're working on, I gave them the outlines of all the things I wanted in it and all the work I had done on it. And now they're Smashed and Carlos and Fairman are actually handling the further development of it. They are in the process of basically building up the closed prototype rule set. But for army building, one of the things I wanted to have was that armies were built by generals and officers. So armies were built up of characters. So characters will help build armies. So if you build like a certain army, like you bring, let's say Emperor Crondrius or any of the Volin line, the Volins get the ability to get access to Palatina Guard. Palatina are the elite royal guard of the reigning house of the empire. different houses get access to special house troops as well. So that's like sub-faction within the Astrian Empire. The Nefir get access to different tribal lords, and tribal lords get different, like, tribal troops, like Nenari warriors or Boskanars and stuff like that. So that's how that kind of works for them. Why did you use mixers? It makes me think of the Xbox Twitch. So mixers is actually a word from our setting. It is a word from a tongue that is long ago. It's old. It's so old that it's one of the first. I have to be careful. It's older than Celeste. I was like, DJ Child! I'm kidding. Actually, Celeste is 12 years old. How old is the setting? How old is the setting? It's from an old tongue inside the setting and universe. It translates into the word power. P-O-W-E-R, just in case I didn't fully enunciate myself. Do not read out loud. Another do not read out loud donation. Thank you. It's an interesting idea. I'll say that much. But for now, I think we'll stay the current course. You can DM me more if you have questions about that. That was a private dono. Couldn't read it out loud, cheat. Universe is 13 old. The setting? The setting is actually quite old. Let's see. Elementary 3rd grade. I am 28 years old. And in elementary 3rd grade was the birth of the Mixer's setting. It originally started out as like a weird sort of like imaginary fantasy when Tyler and I were playing in a sandbox. My co-founder. Which slowly built up lore and setting over the next year. By 4th grade, it was definitely becoming ingrained. And by 5th grade, it was very, very much defined. In 6th grade, it was very defined by that. And then middle school and high school, it got built up like a lot more. That's when the 2nd edition was born. Because 1st edition was more of like a little fantasy thing, and then it just really exploded. It exploded a lot. In an actual sandbox? Yes. In an actual real sandbox. We were making, I can tell you this, it is somewhat canon, not the sandbox per se, but the stuff that happened is actually still partially canon that was talked about when we played in the sandbox. Some of those story elements actually still remain. I preserved the ones that I could, and then I had to throw away what I couldn't. But there's elements. We would make cities, and we would make like large scale, like sprawling empires and stuff like that. And it would be, the idea of the sandbox is that, you know, there were different locations and regions. And so basically, no, I can't talk about, I have to be careful what I say here. So, because some of it's like related to the settings still. Oh no. Uh-oh, YouTube chat disconnected. Is my internet dying? Chat, help. I don't know. Chat, YouTube chat, come back. Okay, it is back. A little bit of a hiccup there, I think. But yeah, it started in a sandbox is where it started. Let me see. I now have pictures of the sandbox. Let's see. I'm going to pull up Roberto Renato. Honestly, this is like a thing I could just talk about for literally ever. Like, I don't really ever want to stop. When I talk about our setting and like imaginations and dreams and stuff like that, I just don't want to stop. But I also don't want to do this too much because I don't know if people actually enjoy this that much. I don't know. I feel like people like it, but I feel like people don't want to. I feel like you guys are just trying to be supportive at the same time, which I appreciate, but it's always hard to tell, you know? It's always hard to tell. By the way, this is the official OST of our setting. What we've released. It's on Robert Renato's channel. This is the last new track, which is the birth and shaping of the cosmos, which is part of the lore video, but one of our artists got an injury and had to take a break from working on it. The remaining pieces. You're very close to finishing, damn it. This was sketched and composed scene-wise by Carlos and masterfully painted by the Little Shoblin and animated by Robert Renato. And then music was composed for it. The singing is done by Pancake. The fact that the dream is expanding to include so many people is wonderful. Yeah, just keep talking. Yeah, I figured. Robert is happy because his music theater's like, yeah. Yeah. Have a Google server. Okay, I'm making sure. I was double checking. I thought I missed a dono. But yeah, if you want to listen to it without my voice over the top of it, feel free to check out Robert Renato's playlist, which has all the tracks, and there's a lot. It's going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. Like I said, the more donos, more music, more art, more video game stuff, more everything. Based Robert, the only member of the bunch Chet has never looted. That's true. I have yet for the gangbang fund to be reached for him. The gangbang... Robert starts sweating, wiping his brow. Pancake is indeed a good lady. Everybody in the team needs to be head patted bald. Yeah, they all work hard. They all do. Oh yeah, YouTube chat messing up. But yeah, it all started in a sandbox, unironically. Sandbox and on pieces of paper. During Kid Stop, specifically. Kid Stop is when I met Tyler. We were introduced and we met each other actually because of our parents knew each other. And he became my best friend. And then that's when the whole dream began. The whole Mixers project was born in a sandbox. Started as a simple childhood dream, and only has continued ever since then. It started on pieces of paper, too. In Kid Stop, we would draw so much lore, because what we do is we draw scenes in from our imagination of the universe and the battles and the wars being waged on colossal and monumental, titanic scale. Like, you thought Warhammer 40k was absurd? Mixer's first edition was spanning universe. Like, it was a universal spanning conflict that raged everywhere and had so many characters and so many, important events and things happening in it. It was kind of like the Three Kingdoms. Like, it was retarded. It was a bit spastic, though, and it included a little bit too much things that were a little too close to other settings, which is why first edition is not canon anymore, because it's a little bit too close to plagiarism in my mind, and too much to be comfortable with. Second edition is where we took the aspects that made the setting unique and then defined it and rebirthed it from that. And then preserved what we could from first and then into second. And third is basically just a more mature refinement of second, with still aspects of first preserved. The only named character to survive first edition was Celeste, actually. I think she's the only named character that is actually still in No, there's more. Can't say who, though. I just remembered. The whole other part of the story about the Mixer setting, not necessarily the Terrestria setting. Welcome to stream, Presmac. I cannot pronounce your name, so I just say it fast and hope you don't know. I don't know. What do you think percentage of the game is at? Fuck, I don't know. Honestly, part of me thinks that, I agree with Robin's assessment. Robin's assessment basically is Once we have the core mechanics coded and programmed, the game will be developed at a lightning speed by comparison. But the big issue is coding the core essential mechanical functions and the renderer and the shader, which is done now, and basically like making all those systems. Once all of those mechanics and things are taken care of and the tooltips and all that functionality stuff is done, it should be very quick to assemble. I've been told multiple times that once this a certain thing is done, my head will spin. And I've been proven that that is true every time. Because progress right now has gone so fast now that the renderer and the ray casting system is done, that it's insane. The basic fundamental stuff for the level editor is set up. It needs more work, but the combat deployment system is in the works. We need to finish the tooltip stuff. The tooltip functional design sheets are complete. We just need to finish the actual tooltip descriptors for the abilities, which is what we're actually working on right now. We are working on Rhea, Aya, Nezra, Celeste, and the Nefir Experiments abilities, and we're going to then add the ability tooltips and the pertinent data and information that each tooltip needs to have with the correspondent highlighted text and its sub-tooltip respective. Once those have been coded and implemented as well, and the abilities are into testing, then it should be pretty seamless. Celeste is basically Hitler. Damn, Celeste is basically death. As long as it's not pushing me smack, I'm push my sack. I'm good even with your try. Damn, that's pretty weird, but yeah, I could go for that. Look, it's spurging out, twitching in the sandbox. Yeah, so like what would happen is Tyler and I would actually pace around the entire fucking school. They used to have like these things where they'd walk around the school because the school is just a giant oval inside, well, like a giant rectangle. And I remember walking countless hours through that elementary school's hallway, discussing the universe and discussing the setting. Over and over again, we poured through the details, the story arcs, the ambitions we had, the dreams we had for the Mixers project. Over and over again. When our parents started like letting us hang out like after more because they got to know each other and like we met at the cabin, we would pour countless hours and sleepless hours over the night talking and discussing the events while like staring up at the stars. Literally. At night at our cabin, because there's clear skies up in the Bemidji, like we would stare up into the stars and we would discuss the ideas and ambitions we had and the dream. It seems so long ago. We'd also pour over our countless frustrations over the fact that we just simply lacked the understanding to work on it. But we also understood that as we grew up, we would gain the skills necessary to be able to achieve some of our early goals. As we grew up and moved through middle school, we continued our work on the project, slowly getting closer and closer to realizing those goals. As it became more and more serious, documentation started to be formed, actual written documentation, as the things started to materialize and mature, as it did with us. Slowly again, it continued to evolve throughout high school, to the first implementations of very rudimentary things. And after high school, the first rudimentary game, which was lost on a fucking hard drive failure. God damn it. But that hard drive failure was a pivotal moment because due to that hard drive failure, it was what pushed us into expanding our horizons, into realizing that we needed to hire a team and build a team and that it could not just be us doing it. It was that realization that caused the creation of the first team. The first team was built during the Republic of the Astrian era, or the Republic of Astria server, and it also did not work out. We picked people that just lacked the skill and the ability to do it, and we also lost tons of money because we got scammed. But we learned from that incident, and after that, immediately, instead of giving up, instead of throwing in, just like every other time we hit any sort of roadblock, we persevered. We carried on. Despite it all, we resumed production the very next day. And the very next day, we found Sala. The very next day, we found Robin, and we found Carlos. And thus, the foundations of the current team were born. I do need to go shopping, but I don't want to stop talking about my stuff. You don't understand, chat. I spent hours walking and talking in circles with Tyler over and over again. Countless days, countless hours. Towards the end of high school, I stopped doing my homework. Sorry, parents, if you're watching, because I know you watch my stream sometimes, but now you know. The reason why my grades plummeted was quite simply because I just lost interest in school. School couldn't bring me what I needed, couldn't do what I wanted it to do anymore. It didn't serve a function or a purpose for me. It was holding me back. It was preventing me from doing what I needed to do, which was write more lore. It was in the way. Math wasn't going to help Kib. Kib would just use a calculator. Use a calculator. Basically. And so that's where that was born from. Oh, she's so sad. I'm gonna hurt you in horrific ways, Celeste. I can't wait. She's like, what? Fuck, Kib. Don't worry, it was a joke, Chad. I promise. I understand. You used to have friends like that, says Beebert. But now Beebert is mine. He's like, ooh. The story goes hard with the music. It does, doesn't it? Actually, I wasn't quite paying attention to music. I was too busy ranting. But basically, that's how this all was born. The setting, the universe. It has been a long, long journey. And it's been a commitment. And I decided, I think it was elementary. It was 6th grade when I made the commitment decision. Was it 6th grade? I don't remember. Either 6th or 7th grade. It was either one of those is when I made the commitment to being like, no, I'm dedicating my life to the project. I've decided that the project is everything to me, and that it's a core focus of my being, and that I am the project. Ah, it screams. In essence, I basically decided that the project was my life goal. Is going to add ugly bastard encounter in the game? Maybe for the right price. Like, no. And again, it culminates in me looting Celeste. You have yet to succeed in that. He's like, damn. Kibs rants easy. I do. It is not hard to wind Kib up. I'm also Minnesotan, which is another thing. It means I don't say goodbye because we normally just keep talking. After work at Burger King, one day, Tyler and I talked so much about the Mixers project. This was about 2015 or 14. This is like a little bit before I met Arch, which I think was 2015. I remember. Yeah, it's 2015. You got sketchies for me to show off, Carlos? Is that why you mentioned it? The car will... Oh my god. I know exactly what that is supposed to be, Carlos. Carlos, you have to let me know if you're okay with me showing that to chat, because I am. Because that is so cool, because I already know exactly. Do not tell Albine, though. He's going to get excited. But yeah, so Tyler and I stayed after work at Burger King, because Tyler was the one who convinced me to work there. And I actually am grateful, because I learned a lot. But I worked there for part-time during high school, and throughout high school and after high school, because I couldn't find a job anywhere. Took a while. But I remember after work one day we had closed, and I would always stay to close with him, despite the fact that I wasn't slated to close, because I didn't want to leave my friend alone to close the shop by himself when I could be helping him get out of there. So I always chose to stay, and sometimes I'd stay for a very long time, 13 hours, 12 hours. One time, the longest record was 17 hours I worked that day, because I just didn't want to leave him there. He was my best friend, and he still is. He will always be my best friend. And we worked so hard, and we cleaned the store, and as we clean the store, we talk about the setting. We continue to work on stuff. Why did it take you then? God damn it, your fucking speech impediment, Carlos, translates into your typing. Oh, wait, no, you don't have a speech impediment. But so basically, that's where it all came into play. It all rolled into that. And so from that, we basically continued to work on stuff. But I remember that one day, I remember all those days actually, where we talked until the sun began to rise, and we're like, we looked at each other, we probably should go. And I was like, yep. And I remember always leaving sadly, because it's like, I wanted to keep working, but I understood that's like we needed to sleep. Yeah, that 17-hour shift was killing, dude. Like, my fucking feet hurt so bad. When I got home, I remember the pain. Oh, the incredible pain. I can remember it as clear as yesterday. The aching. Kibs would never leave a friend behind. Kibs is always stuck by his friends. Kibs cherishes friends. That's why Kibs stood by Barch and saved Barch when Barch was dead. When Barch was dead. When Barch was being attacked and stabbed in the back, who was sticking up for Blondie? Kib. Because what else do you have if not for friends? Good night, Rapier Kamigawa. Have a good night, buddy. Where the fuck did I put that thing? Oh, no. Where did Carlos put it? In the Terrestria At War section. Alright, chat. Take a look. More Gurukar art. Sketches of more Gurukar units. Now take a guess at what that silhouette could possibly be. Also, I see you have the old original sketch of the shaping of it. And it seems like you preserved it, which is good. Yes, that looks very good. Now I'll take a wild guess at which Gurukar unit it is too, because I didn't actually read if it was the actual Gurukar unit. But I think... No, wait, I'll let chat guess first. Keep working on your dream. Good luck, Dum Dum. Thank you for the donation, Nubicus. Don't forget to get your rank in the Discord server, Nubicus. You need to get your rank. There's going to be goodies, early access things in there for you. Send me a DM. And if you haven't received your rank, DM a moderator. If I haven't gotten back to you, DM me again. Sometimes I just get hammered by DMs. Other times, I get none. Other times... Our little's dead. He didn't answer the question. He probably had to waddle away to go make dinner or something. It looks like some kind of mage. That's a good guess. Witch god. Hasty. That's shoe on bad day. That's show on a bad day, says Steven. Damn, Steven. I will get food soon. Alright, so it's a witch, I think, of Gurukar. Oh, he said it's a witch. And then he says bitch. God damn it. Yes. This is the sketch of one of the witches of Gurukar. So we're getting the witches. I wonder what the Witch King's gonna look like. I'm pretty excited to see him too. Sometimes you write stuff and you have no idea. But with the Gurukar, for the first time in forever, I'm not writing too much and I'm letting the artists kind of surprise me on this. And then I'm going to work with what I get. Mostly because it's a good writing exercise to do it and bounce back and forth. Keeps me on my toes. All I wrote for the Gurukar was their basic lore foundations and structure and principle. But the overall designs and stuff, I'm letting the artist take creative interpretation so that I can exercise my writing skills. Again, good to exercise. You don't have time? Well, consider doing it later, Nubicus. Either way, regardless, thank you for your generous donation. I appreciate it. And so does the entire team. Well, the music is Wrath of the Firstborn. It's one of Ria's core themes. Wrath of the Firstborn. You have a Rana to the right, and you have Waylon to the left, using his little matchlock to pew away at some Nefir coming from the Astrian rubble. Or ruins. Nezra's not the eldest. Nezra's the second-born child. Aya is the youngest. Ria is the eldest daughter. It means she's the firstborn, which also means that she is the inheritor. Yeah, the drums are great in this. There's so much story in the music too, especially when they see the story tethered together with the music. It's gonna be great. What led you to decide to have all three, Rhea, Nezra, Aya, all being gals? What led that decision? Well, it was all one person originally. So, if you were familiar with the creation of Legend of Terrestria, or anything I've mentioned, or public statements, Rhea was originally, well, she was originally the only daughter of Emperor Chondrius. And Aya and Nezra were actually different aspects of Rhea's original personality that I actually broke into different things. And then I broke them into different characters because a part of me felt like it just felt so weird. Or the story was good, but it wasn't what I had necessarily had envisioned entirely. And when I added Aya and Nezra to the mixed, the story became so much better. At least to me. Because then you had the sister dynamic where they had like actual interpersonal relations with each other, and the fact that they are so closely bonded, and the fact that there's a lot to them. Their views of the world. It expanded on it a lot more. There's Nezra. A beautiful show painting. So the sequel, we find out Rhea was in an asylum, and Nezra and Aya were alternate personalities. Well, no, it's just when writing it, it was originally Rhea was the only character. And originally, way back in the old story, Astria was more of an island empire, an archipelago empire. But that got changed, actually, quite a bit. Like, a lot changed when working on the story. It was also set during the Victorian period. Like when Aya and Nezra were added, there were still trains. Then we set the timeline back to Antiquity, and then we went to Antiquity Plus. So the idea that Antiquity carried forward. And then that was the perfect sweet spot. All over the place we went. All over the place we did go. But I like Nezra, since I have a weakness for mommy milkers. Goddamn it, What led you to change to Antiquity? Mostly due to the fact that I am a huge fan of the Antiquity aesthetic. The idea of Greeks, Romans, and like all sorts of ancient empires is something that has always greatly interested me. Despite my other interest being in science fiction, which I'm sure you'll see at some point as well, at some down the road. Astrians in space. Astrians in space. Just like, oh my god. No. But yeah. I just like the look of it. It just has a certain beauty in it. It's before the pre-puritanical age. Or, well, it's the pre-puritanical. The idea that you didn't have that age where it was cold, or there was no cooling in the sense that. So it's very warm. It's very exposed, so to speak. Not necessarily just in clothing, but like the art is different. And carrying that forward into a medieval setting, like the 1500s, very much changes the view of the world completely. Astria was originally heavily influenced by the Roman Empire, then later more so the Greeks, then more so the Persians, and then it sort of became its own thing as I took little aspects of American culture and sort of infused it into the mix to sort of help the blend taste a little better. It had a missing component, and it was lacking what Astria needed, which was individual in what's the word? The view set of individuals being important, the individual liberties and stuff of that nature. The right to bear arms is actually another thing that I wanted to focus on, because I like the idea that this Astrian society has a very different view set of the world. It's a bit of a different one, to be certain. Like, they still have like senators and stuff. So like the Senate is still there. They still do things. The Emperor still, like, there's a different positioning. The Emperor stands above the Senate, but the Senate does like handle everything else. They're at Rovera. the beautiful cliffside city of Rivera, which we have some art of. The old imperial capital is at Helios, where the emperor and the celestial throne is, and then the new imperial capital was strategically relocated to the city of Pyria due to the fact that the Nephir had encroached to the river of Osos, meaning that should they break through the Osos river, there's not a lot of huge strategic landmarks that'll protect Helios. Helios sits in a valley, but Helios could be easily encircled because it's a lonely mountain. It's a singular mountain that it is built up on. Well, it is a single mountain, but it's a very rumpy mountain, I'll say that much. It's got lots of little peaks on it. It's quite big. Rat Warren Pub doing $2, say feed to Kib. Thank you for the generous donation. Real appreciate it. A little less spooky theme from last October with her butterfly, which often gets left out of the art stuff. It's quite a shame because that thing is quite useful. Kibs, will there be city fighting? Yeah, there'll be fighting in cities and outside of cities. There'll be city fighting in the warfare mode as well. There will be urban combat included. How we're going to get that to work in the system, though, is something we're going to have to figure out. It's going to be tricky. We'll work on field battles first, but we're working on the tactical combat. First, we'll do field battles, then we'll do siege war. Siege warfare, I want it to be pretty accurate, so multi-stage siege fighting is on the list of things. Because I like the idea of cities actually being proper sieges and multi-stages to the sieges as the story progresses. Alright, I procrastinated for as long as I can. This art makes me feel anxious for the little genocidal maniac. Oh boy, chat, just wait. You should feel anxious for her. I can only smile at what I have planned. I was like, wait, what does that do? Nobody knows. I still think it's weird they preserved my sketch of it. Or part of my sketch, because I can see my drawing work in here even. I can see because I was helping them draw this, actually. Because I got up my drawing tablet and drew part of it. Not gonna say what part, but I can so clearly tell I did that part. I hate it. The artist wanted to keep it in because they thought it would be cool. God damn it. Looks derpy. Berto. Yeah, there's lots of great music. Great cheekage. This is another good one. There's so much wonderful music in our setting. Robert and Pancake have done such a fantastic job. And Show did a great job with this piece. I know it was a struggle, Show, but by God, you pulled it off. It wasn't an easy piece, I'll say that much. There was a lot of trials and tribulations with this one. I get so excited just thinking about it, but I get so intoxicated with working on the setting. Alright, I can procrastinate no longer, friends. It is time for Kib to go to the grocery store. Please check out Robert Renato's music. It's on Robert Renato's Officio Auditorium. Post a link, George Rex. You know what to do. Fuck it. I'm gonna end it with beautiful art. Thank you, George Rex. Feel free to pop that into Twitch and in Rumble chat for them too. Please support Robert by listening to his music and hitting the like button on his music videos. He could use the support and the help. He also makes some pretty cool Warhammer music stuff too. He's a fantastic composer. So please support my other friend. And please subscribe to him as well. Help to Bobbert. Share his music too. Share Show's art. It's just too good. Just don't want to stop listening. That cheek needs a... Look at it. It's pretty as fuck, isn't it? She's like, holy shit. Holy shit. This piece actually is fucking beautiful, though. I just can't get over how good it is. All right, chat. It is now time for Kibs to get ready to make some food. I'll be back with Company Heroes. I might be a little late for the Company Heroes stream. I'm going to, in advance, let Arch know so he understands that I'm going to be running a little behind schedule. And we will see you in the Company Heroes 3 stream. Have yourself a fantastic little day, Chatfish. See you in about 30 to 40 minutes.